Is the problem substantive? If it is substantive, are our regulations being effective in resolving the problem? If the problem's not substantive, repeal the regulations. That was a huge push. And if they're not effective but needed, then amend them so that they become effective. And as I look at some of the city ordinances, I am finding, and finding more, things that fall into that caveat of do we really need these? And two of them are standing out in mind. The first one is dealing with political signs, and we have an ordinance on it, and without reading all the way through it, although it's right up above you there, you can see that there is a 45-day prior to the election limitation on the time frame, and you see some of it talking about public right-of-way, which isn't defined and needs to be. And so theoretically, there are some blocked areas from where signs are not to go. And yet, in prior elections, and especially in the primary that just took place, there were so many violations, I couldn't count them all. Quite frankly, I took a few pictures and I thought, oh, this could go on forever, so don't take any more. Which tells me, and they're not enforced. So it tells me that either it's not a significant enough problem to deal with, or the ordinance is not written in an effective manner to where it can be enforced readily and to try and seek better compliance. And I'm not pushing either direction. I was hopeful to get a feel from the council as to, is this a significant issue? If it is, then how do we fix that? And if it's not a significant issue, can we just repeal this? Making sure that we don't leave a loophole where then it falls into all the other signage requirements that may or may not be appropriate.
I mean, when I run for this job, I didn't know anything, and I've learned all them. I think maybe we just need to do a better job for the county commissioners to let them know what the rules are. I personally didn't want my own signs out very long, let alone somebody longer than 45 days. So I liked having something.
I think one thing we need to, it just keeps coming up. People, a lot of times candidates will, and it happened during this election cycle with the county commission. People will put their signs in the park strips and that kind of thing, which technically is city property. But I don't know if there's, it just seems like it's a little much. Now, if they were putting signs out in front of a voting center.
That's in this law too somewhere.
Yeah, and that's not, clearly not allowable. Or if they're putting them on in a park or something like that, we can see the wisdom and all of that. But I'm wondering if maybe it just seemed like there was a lot of not too much was done during the commission race. I never heard too much said, but I think it's probably more important that we adhere to the days before and after the election, and making sure that if they're on park strips, it just seems like that's going a little over the top, for restricting them from putting it, because like Blair said, most people don't know that.
A private park strip.
A private park strip,
I wanted to.
not a public.
Some people don't know where the public right of way is. If the city owns, if that's a city road, we go a long ways off that road. And people was putting them for presidents and all that. They was on where our mower couldn't mow them, and that's wrong. If we mow that grass.
You're talking about east of Main Street, East Main, where we mow the.
Let's go down to 1,000 west and 1,200 north. Okay, just before the overpass. That's all city property that we mow, and alongside, wherever we mow the grass is city right of way, public right of way. So do we stop the mower and pull them? Do we mow around them? I think that candidates that put them out either ought to know that, or It's when you're mowing, you don't want to get out and move signs, but if you run one over, then they're gonna be mad. But we know where our public right-of-ways are, and if they're in public right-of-ways, I say either they get pulled or mowed, and for lack of words.
And I don't mind public right-of-way, except like I said, it's not defined, which is a legal issue. We have street right-of-way. When I worked with Sean on this, when I was up for election, asking Lindsay and Sean regularly, showing them pictures where I had my signs, am I okay, am I okay, am I okay? And then when I asked for a definition of public right-of-way, what Sean provided to me was street right-of-way, which is something different. And
Street
so
right-of-way
a
and
definition would help. And if there's a desire to restrict the time and get it out of the public right-of-way, then I would say, okay, if that time frame is okay, then it needs to be enforceable and enforced, which adds to the code officer's responsibilities. And if public right-of-way is a key, then let's just define the term and make it much more clear than it is now, because even when I check with different city staff, I got a different definition or response, because it's not a legal definition and it needs to be. Whatever will make it more enforceable. I looked at other examples in some other towns, so like for Smithfield, what they say amongst the time frame, and they do 30 days, but the signs must be placed a minimum of 10 feet from the back edge of the curb and gutter. So I mean, pretty enforceable. When you see 10 feet, okay, got a tape measure, there you go, you're in violation, you're in violation. It's very clear to the public as well as to an officer in that case, where when they see public right-of-way, and like you said, the city has property far off the pavement, especially if there are no sidewalks or anything, oh my laws, it's a guessing game for the public, and maybe for the officer too, of where is that line at? So just making it more clear for the public as well as our team.
Well, and a straightforward, easy to calculate, easy to know what that definition is, I think would be very helpful. And not a lot of verbiage. It doesn't have to be tons of verbiage, just something simple that
Amen.
we can understand and the general public can understand as they're supporting this candidate and that candidate, and that kind of thing, so.
Well, I'll do some research into it, but I'll look to plagiarize. Whoever else has a
Yeah, no, I
good
think
definition, take it.
get as much as you can and.
I like the private property deal. Why should we let any of it be on anywhere but private property?
So just prohibit
I
them
don't put
from,
one at your house and you're good with it. But I don't think I ought to be able to put them, and I'm gonna use like the old crossroads out there. He don't care who puts up signs out there. You don't even have to ask him.
But I asked him, I got permission.
Yeah, but he don't care if they're there, so, but that's private property.
But some people, you hand a sign to,
Yeah,
your cousin says, I want a sign, and they take it and they
Put
just
it in
put
the
it
wrong
where they
place.
want to, because they don't want to.
They don't want to
around
mount
it.
on it or
A park
whatever.
strip, a personal park strip, is to me the easiest place to put them. I mean,
it is.
they're not in the way, but that's still city property. So either that or you write it that way that if it's a private property, they can put it on the park. I don't know.
from those speaking up, what I'm hearing is we do have a need for an ordinance. But perhaps it could be amended to be a little more enforceable.
Well, I think the candidates, I don't know. who
You're
we
responsible
do,
for
but
your sign.
If the governor wants to put signs up or whoever, somehow we got to get our word out what our rules are. Because I think we all had the rules because we come in there and we found out the rules
Yeah.
because we were running for office. But
Yeah.
the county commissioners probably didn't get that.
I had a phone call from somebody that said basically, he told me basically they could put it wherever they want, they just had to let us know. That was for a state office, that was one of the senators or something, I can't remember, he's like, okay, I didn't know any better, I'm like, all right, whatever, put your signs wherever you want.
So they didn't feel that our ordinance was applicable to them?
Apparently, yeah.
Jeff, did you do any research into what the state ordinance, does the state have any verbiage on this?
I've not, but I believe Bill has.
I have, and what it says is in so many words that cities may, are not required to, but they may enact permits or require permits or allow for political signs on public property. But if you allow them for any, you have to allow them for all. So that's really their only restriction. If you're going to restrict, you need to make it so that it's not political, it's not related to a party or a candidate. It just needs to be across the board. You don't have to, but if you do, it has to be neutral. That's it.
That's on public
On public property.
like a park?
Correct.
I'm reading here in the state thing too, and it says local government entity. So each municipal can decide whether or not we allow them to put signs in public places or not. That's what this says right here. Local government entity, local government officer, local government employee, or another person with authority or control over public property that posts or permits a person to post political sign or public property. So he's talking about posting. Shall permit any other person to post a political sign on public property subject to the same requirements and restrictions imposed to all the other signs permitted to be posted in public property areas. So it sounds like each municipal can decide.
Yeah, and the ones that I've checked, the towns, none of them are identical. They're all unique.
They're all doing their own thing.
There was no consistency, other than that they typically had a time frame, although it varied, 30 days, 45 days, other ones, and the locations varied, whether it was 10 feet from the curb or public right-of-way or what, it varied from each one.
I like the 45-day and 7-day after. I went and picked all mine up that night.
Well, I don't
I thought we had 12 hours, so I picked mine up after.
do it forever. If it's over.
So I didn't read it very close, but
Okay,
Okay, I
Well-
think that this,
I'll work on some language,
if you would,
and Bill, if it's all right, I'll work with you.
Yeah, and-
Your designee.
One of the things we did in Texas that I really liked was that any employee of the city was authorized to pick up the signs.
that's a good one too.
And that applied not just to these political signs, but to any snipe signs or those real estate investor or any of those kinds of things, that any employee or officer of the city was authorized to pick them up. And we held them for, I want to say 72 hours before we disposed of them. So if you wanted it back, you could come get it, but if you put it out again, we'll just keep picking them up.
Right.
so is this, should we extend this to that kind of situation where somebody's trying to sell rain gutters or whatever, and they've got their signs, does that fall into that same category?
I would like to see that.
Me too.
I think it's nice.
I think Steve used to.
Steve used to, and
Is that a code officer sort of a thing?
Well, it is, but the code in this case
like the,
expressly said that so the public works is out and about, they don't have to be a code enforcement officer. If Lindsay's driving by and sees one and it makes her mad, she can pull over and pick it up, The hard thing was, this is the real challenge, is when it comes to yard sale signs. And what we did in Texas, and I know it's Texas, so, but we kind of winked and nodded at it a little bit after 5 o'clock on Friday. As long as they were picked up by Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, they were gone. We'd kind of wink and nod at it a little bit then. But yeah, this business of just decorating our main streets in town and things with all these signs, it got a little out of hand. So
stop signs for
Every-
yard sales.
everything, they'll staple it to them or tape them on or whatever they do. And I saw a box over there at the crossroads. I thought that was pretty clever. They put the yard sale sign on a box and just put that in the road. Well, that's just littering, So
Okay.
So should I work on language, or you'll work on language?
let's work on it together.
Why don't you work on it? Yeah, work on it together.
Great.
Come up with something to present.
Okay,
Sounds like a good thing.
thank you. The second item is on the Main Street mix. This also is in city ordinance, and I see Lindsay's going to get it up here. It's Part 3-970 Main Street mix, and it talks about having a city advisory council for Main Street. It talks about the composition, the membership of that advisory committee. It talks about it being, public meetings. It talks about a host of things. But the city has not utilized the Main Street mix. There's no shall. It's not required to use it. and it hasn't been used for some years. I don't know the exact, but for some
Goes
years.
back many, many years.
And once again, if there either is not a need for this or not a desire for it or an intent to utilize it, I see this as prime opportunity to repeal and to get this off the books. Otherwise, if there is a need for it, I would suggest that we add the word shall in there with a few other appropriate words, and it would basically tell the city you must have this advisory committee. And I'm looking for input. Again, I'm not pushing either way. I'm looking for input.
We, also in there, we can have advisory committees and that kind of thing. So there's also, there's that option that's also available. I think it kind of goes back to Sean coming together with some, and it had a purpose back then for, might have been back when we were doing STAT or, and that kind of thing, when we're back in 2017 or whenever it was. So, it's up to you, up to everybody here to decide what they want to do, but, I don't know, it hasn't been used.
Silence gives me the impression that there's not a lot of support to have it on the books. And if that's the case, then I would come up to the next meeting and,
Well, we can put it on the agenda and
right,
then.
offer it as an item to repeal this ordinance.
At this point,
Off the books.
we're not doing any of that right now, but
And one third one real quick that's coming up, and I've met already with Greg, the code officer, and just spoke about a little bit with Brady. So early this year, one of our retailers wanted to do a sidewalk sale, and city contractor gave them the impression that they couldn't, and made them nervous. So they lobbied their complaint to me and shared their thoughts with me that they felt that it was not a comfortable situation, the contact between the contractor and the retailer. And so I haven't had enough time to get to all the complaints I get, but as I do find time, I try to look into them. And this one I've already been doing some research on, and so I've gone around. Case in point, we have a city ordinance that basically says that you can't go more than 2 feet off of the face of the building, although it doesn't define the term that's utilized. That's another legal issue. And I didn't mean to go in depth on this one, so if you want me to hold this off, I will.
yeah,
And it also says that you have to have, at the bottom of the paragraph, you have to have a 6-foot clear walkway. Well, we have no less than 3 violations right now downtown. So Max has their tables out, that's clear violation, and I've measured everything. There's not a 6-foot passage or more than 2 feet off the face. The new ice cream shop, the sweet shop, is in violation, although this weekend they did turn their tables. So they were perpendicular to the face, now they're parallel, they were parallel, now they're perpendicular, so the chairs don't come out even further. They virtually blocked the whole walkway when they were at the tables and pulled the chairs out. And then we have the bike stand in front of the thrift store, which is about 3.5 feet out from the face, and then when you put a bike in, it extends out even further. Then when you get to the 6-foot part of the ordinance, we have large flower pots out, which greatly reduce the width of the sidewalk. And then the trees, and I don't know if you measure to the actual trunk of the tree or to the edge of the concrete with the dirt around it, that has a huge impact, and to a much smaller extent, some of the poles that are up. So we have all these obstacles that basically say you can't be on the sidewalk. And yet, if we're trying to enhance the retail businesses, I would dearly love to see some sidewalk sales, so long as safety measures are met, which Brady's looking into. But it's something, again, to consider. If we're going to have the ordinance, it either should be enforced or repealed, one way or the other.
And again, you may want to look, you and Bill look
Yeah.
into that, and let's,
we lived for sidewalk sales when I was a kid.
No
so
kidding.
We lived for
I'm a
them.
fan.
it was a big deal.
Big deal.
What section of the code was that in?
They're the same size, yep.
For the sidewalk?
Yeah.
I would like to
Gotta give me a
see,
moment to
I'd like to
check.
see those sidewalks. I love the
intend to
idea.
go
Well,
that
you can just tell me later.
We're
I
listening.
love the idea that we have the ice cream shop that has tables out there and Max that has tables, and I think that just bites people downtown, and so I think we need to be less restrictive and not more restrictive.
Could appeal that whole
There's
thing.
another one on the next page.
Thank you,
So
Jeff.
I'll work on that too then.
Thank you for looking into that, and I'm sure there's many, many others that we can be looking into as well, so.
What?
Get rid of the trees. There's a good tree killer thing.
We're going to talk about that a little later. We got some hard information. So, anyway. Again, thank you, Jeff, for looking into that. Appreciate it. Let's see, Blair, let's see, what did I, oh crap, I forgot my. Wes, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yeah, but we're a long ways from that, ain't we?
No, I know that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just
I'd
asking.
love to lead.
I'm just asking.
I'd love to lead in the pledge.
And then Jeff will lead us in the prayer. I just wanted to get that out.
Oh.
So I
Put that on your notes, okay.
So I'll make sure I get it right this time. Okay. Years of Service Awards, Lynn Corbett with the Senior Center. She's going 20 years, and Jeff Wickstrom with Public Works is 15 years. Council business. Discussion and possible action on accepting the proposal for leasing police department vehicles from the United Fleet Service. I think this will be you, Dustin. Do you want to just kind of, I think we've got some time, if you wanted to kind of, or Skylar, are you going to brief us on this?
So the fleet service company is coming from Mesquite and they're about 10 minutes away, so I'll start.
Can we come back to him?
Yeah, let's come back to you then. We can come
them
back.
here
Let's wait
and-
for them to get here.
Great job.
Yeah, you did wonderful there. We appreciate
That was easy.
That was efficient.
discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-47, approving the water use and preservation element of the city integrated land use plan. Council, did we have a chance to kind of go through this a little bit? I have. Bill, can you kind of,
But Jeff's here.
Actually,
Jeff, are you gonna fill us in on this? Sure. Okay, why don't you kind of, then I'm sure there'll be questions.
I won't be as fast as Skylar, but.
Never are.
While Jeff's doing that, the county is also working on a countywide integrated water use plan. And this will be something that will integrate into, each community needs to come up with their own water use plan, and this is Tremont. And so, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so the majority of this is just kind of setting up how the city's current water system is operating, both from the culinary and the secondary lines. Towards the end, though, there's a list of tables that I worked with Sam Taylor on, and we went through as a planning commission. Let's see here a little further. We'll get there eventually. Yeah, so this table here, we put these kind of in order in what we thought would be kind of the sequential way to work towards to help with the water conservation effort here in Tremont. With the continued growth, the need for the secondary system to expand becomes ever greater. And these are some things we can do to just help how much water usage the city's going through, especially during our hot months. So this plan was created on two things. One, the county started with theirs, but number two, the Division of Water Resources has required us to pass this in order to be eligible for the Flip the Strip initiative, which is taking any park strips under 8 feet and trying to get any of the any grass or non-water-wise vegetation out to eliminate water waste from irrigation. So that's this portion. It'll be an amendment to the general land use plan, if you have any questions.
This is very, I mean, you've gone through this is a lot of work, putting this together, and can you talk about, I mean, these are sort of areas of focus. Can you, in sort of layman's terms, can you say, can you kind of give us an idea what how are we going to conserve water? I know there's parts in there where you're expecting like a 0.5 to 1% reduction per year.
Yeah.
Even if we have growth, there's still that 1%.
The main water conservation is being able to use the canal water for secondary irrigation. That is, if you pull up the city's water usage on our culinary system, it spikes July and August when we have our hot months, because there's still portions of the city that are not using that to water their lawns. So that finalizing and building the rest of that system out will be the key part. Further though, this plan goes through, continuing to coordinate and have positive interactions with the canal company and with the county and with adjacent municipalities about water conservation, to make sure that we all understand, the impact that we have on one another. Another few things, and one that I'm for, is implementing kind of a watering restriction, so that if you are, no matter what water source you're using to water your lawns, that there's a window in the day where you shouldn't water your lawns. And I think that would, I don't know what impact that'll really have quantity wise, but I think it's just one of those that's better for the lawns and just better to, preserve water if you're not running your sprinklers in the heat of the day. Yes, Wes?
Can I say one thing on that?
Yeah.
The way that our secondary now is set up, sometimes even we in the city have to water during the day to keep our gallonage. So it'd be pretty hard to ask you not to water your lawn, and yet we have to water the park during the day. Just a thought. I don't know how you flip that.
Yeah, it is tough. I've got a few neighbors though that their sprinklers turn on at 4 p.m. and they just haven't changed the schedule. And I mean, that's every day. And I understand with the parks, and I've seen the golf course too, there's a lot of acreage to be watered. But I think what we're trying to do is avoid having people really try, watering at the peak heat of the day, where it's hard on the grass. It's also hard on you're not really accomplishing, a lot, especially if people think the answer to getting their lawn greener is watering multiple times a day. So we can see what the schedule looks like and stuff, but we're trying to figure out the best way to conserve the water shares we have, and as well as the water, our drinking water reservoirs.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think just letting people know, whether it goes on our water bill, on all of our websites and all that, please don't water during this time. And I don't know if you'd want to put in small print, if you see the city doing it, it's so that you can water at night.
Yeah.
It can only take so much water, And people don't know that the cemeteries just drain water that we're catching just before it hits the malad, and we run that during the day. So I think we just got to inform people, ask, beg, whatever,
Yeah.
for personal lawn use to please not until at night, That's my thought.
I've got 3 items. A couple of them are questions. Another one's a comment. The first one's a comment. If you could go to page 10 of this document, or page 37 of the presentation. There. So the paragraph in the upper left is the one that caught my attention. Tremont grew from a population of 5,592 in 2000 to 9894 in 2020. Growth is expected to continue at a similar rate. Scientifically, that's outdated data. We have a lot more current data than that. And the estimate, or the guess, that we're going to be at 18,480 residents in 2050, I think is grossly underestimated. And if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, we're growing on an average of 1,000 residents a year. And if we're going to 2050, that's 26 years, that'd be another 26,000 people, which would be almost 40,000 people in town. So I would love to see it be updated.
I think there's
and more accurate.
I went through that as well, and I read many parts in there that the information was, And maybe it would be a recommendation that we maybe update some of that information so that it's more relevant to, as we get ready to submit this to the county, it ought to be, I agree with Jeff.
If I could
there.
speak to that just for a second. The data that they're using is census data, which is the most accurate data that we have at that current time.
And we have that through 2023.
And we have projections through 2023. We don't have accurate counts. I'm not sure if their methodology requires them to go to census data and not deal with projections, but then that seems weird because they do go to the projections.
Yeah.
The Kempsey Gardner Institute is trying to work with the Division of Housing and Community Development at the state to try to come up with a real population guide that would be way more accurate even than any of these. And so as that comes online, we'll have better data for you.
I can tell you, though, that the state utilizes even the state or the U.S. Census estimates per year. So if they were considering our classification as a city, they're not going back to 2020. They're looking at their latest numbers, and that's what they'll utilize.
Well, let's just make sure we use current, as current as it's possible and and following their recommendations.
The other way to estimate that, and we've asked the folks in our utility billing department to look into this for us, is to get the number of residential utility connections that we have and then multiply that by the
0.97.
2.97 or 3, just 3. And the current estimate she just gave me just as in passing was
Like 2662 for residential, for single family, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was like
another
I need to go
500 or
through because
something.
the commercial and the multifamily kind of get mixed, so I need to go through and see what that number is, but obviously we're still very much.
We're
My
trying-
main
we're
concern
trying to
is-
crunch those numbers, I guess.
Thank
is what
you.
I'm
My
saying.
main concern is 5, 10 years from now, somebody comes back and looks at this thing and goes, holy cow, you guys had no clue what you were doing. So I would, as best as we can, make more updated estimates on what we think the population will be. Next, if you would go to page 38 of the presentation, page 11 of the brochure, so hopefully the next page. Yep, that's it right there. Just scroll up a little bit. So this is a question, and it talks about the act directs the development of the surface water of the Bear River and its tributaries through the planning and construction of reservoirs, pipelines, pump stations, and reservoirs twice. And yet, my understanding, and I could be wrong, so this is a question, didn't the state put moratoriums on a lot of these things? I mean, they were talking at one point of putting a reservoir in up, is it Pocatello Valley? And that's all been.
Whites Valley.
Thank you, and that's all been scratched. So really, are there still plans, and with the state wanting the water to get to the Great Salt Lake, is that a viable statement? And I don't know.
I don't know, this is part of the concern with the countywide water master plan is we want to preserve as much of that water in our county as possible. My dad used to say that water doesn't just flow downhill, it flows to money. And so the money is south of us. We just want to we want to have a plan put together. Maybe this needs to be updated as well, but we want to have a plan put together that shows that we have a plan for our water. And somebody doesn't come in and just sort of end up taking it from us.
So the short answer to the question is that yes, they have put pause on all of these kinds of large infrastructure and reservoir projects for the time being. What they found on the state level is that with the conservation efforts that we're having, even though the growth continues apace, that the water use has remained relatively steady. So they don't need any of this new infrastructure. What they need is the continued efforts towards conservation, because that is working. As far as new development and especially residential development comes online, that the ability to conserve and preserve the water that we have has been steady.
My main concern here was we cited 1991 state act, legislation that was enacted, but there may be more current legislation that impacts this, and we haven't cited that. So, and I realize the wishes and support that, but again, if this is incomplete, I would like to see something complete on what the state allows or doesn't allow at this point in time. And I don't know all the details. Again, that's a question.
We will, and again, I'm thinking that this is we're in draft form at this point still, or is this,
Yeah, I mean, we were hopeful to get this adopted because DNR is waiting for us to have this passed so we can become eligible for the state program. It's DNR, but then it's the Division of Water Resources within the Department of Natural Resources. So we can look at fixing some of this data and this. I'm not sure what influence that has really on the list that really is the meat of this.
the goals and
The
everything?
meat of this, of the goals of how Tremont City is gonna work towards actually conserving water.
And I'm not asking for any changes on any of that stuff. I'm just looking at it more in a legal vein and trying to enhance our credibility for any others who might read this thing. The third one, if you will go to page 15 of the brochure or 42 of the presentation. Again, a question, thank you, right there. Changes in landscaping. This says that the city anticipates adopting a new water conserving landscape ordinance as part of the municipal code. And it's talking about this year. Is that true?
It's going to planning commission next week.
Okay. I just wasn't aware. So when I read this, it's like, really? We're in August and I was unaware. So,
Yeah, no, we've drafted it. Bill and I have both reviewed it, and it's gonna go to the planning commission for its first discussion next week.
great. Thank you.
Just one more point of clarification, if I may, Mayor. This is being driven by state statute, this update. I'm not sure if everyone was aware of that, so we're doing this in response to the state legislature telling us thou shalt do this. It has to be adopted by December of next year, so we're a little ahead of the game, but there's no reason to wait on it if we're prepared and ready to roll forward with it. Sooner the better, I think, so.
Well, and to do this, some of those grants for
Exactly.
residents to do the flip your strip,
Strip.
converting the strip to rock and other, that we wouldn't have to water. That saves a lot of water.
The best example too of where this has taken place on city is the wider park strip in front of Jeannie Stevens Park next to 1000 West. It's been one that has gone into water-wise planting and it's had a few years to grow, and I think we can all recognize it's filled in pretty well and looks pretty natural with how,
Looks good.
the scenery is here in northern Utah. So is with this, one of the items too is to create a water-wise sample garden that the city can use also for education on water conservation and landscaping, which I don't know if we'll find grant money, but it's one of the display items that is in that list.
Okay. All right,
Well,
Jeff.
have you noticed, we're probably 40% done at seniors, and we're 50% done around here. Zero scaping with,
Yeah.
around the city office, so we're putting forth a lot of effort.
Good. Glad to hear that. Anything else, Jeff?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Let's see. Get my bearings here. Okay, discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-48, approving a professional services agreement between Tremont City and Bear River Live for promoting and highlighting community events. Bill, are you going to help us through this one?
Yeah, so you see the agreement in front of you, or you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward. We're looking forward to having these services online so that we can help promote different items and fun things going on in the city.
The, with some of the survey information and so forth that's coming back, one of the concerns a lot of residents have is not really knowing, kind of what's going on. And I, for one, at least, see this as being an important tool that we can use to get our word out, share what's going on in the city, and make the residents more informed.
Question. And I'm hopeful, but I'd like a discussion on it. So I'm not, quite frankly, familiar with BR Live. I did some looking into it, saw where you and Sarah did an interview, and there was another one dealing with the city this year, but I'm looking at the views and printed off their page. And in the latest one, 5 days ago, they had 195 views. 13 days ago, the episode there had 13 views. 2 weeks ago, the episode had 11 views. Also, then 3 weeks ago, that one had 16 views, and a month ago, 18 views. So the numbers are concerning. Is there an expectation that it's going to get a lot more usage than what we're seeing online right now?
I think you'll
Some
see a
numbers
lot
seem
more.
low to me. for
I
some
think
reason.
It's their numbers.
It's not sports season.
Yeah, it's
That's
true.
part of it.
They live stream all the high school sports stuff.
There's one example, they live stream events at the county fair, the livestock judging and so forth, and they run ads for us, during that, and there's thousands, if not tens of thousands of views going on during the shows and the auction and so forth during that. I can't speak to what you're seeing
One of those
there,
was
but-
the city manager, so I'm sure that didn't get any.
Okay, all right.
I watched it twice, so.
Hey, thank you.
There's both
Feeling that
Now
love.
you're down to 16.
But we do need, I see this as just one of those tools. There are many other things should be working on.
I was just hoping the numbers would be a lot more significant than that.
Me as well, I'm surprised. Yeah.
I am too, because I look up a lot of stuff. My grandkids are involved and stuff. I just watched one that they were on it and this weekend, so.
What's the cost? Doesn't really
3,000.
talk-
She's asking for $3,000.
A year?
Well, this will cover all of the events, heydays.
Had them all listed.
She's got a list of events that
Yeah,
she's
the break
covering.
Too, because with she has it broke out per event, and it actually added up to like $3,500. They said
Oh,
they could cap it at
$3,500.
$3,000 for us. And they'd like to reevaluate it yearly so that we can make sure we're getting the benefit we need, plus it's worth their time too. So it would be reevaluated every year to make sure it's serving its purpose.
That's
I
been a
don't know
problem.
Any other local
Yeah,
place that does it.
that's been the problem since I've been in this for 10 years, and everybody always says we're not transparent. And there's really no venue that everybody looks at. I mean, when I first started, the leader was, a lot of people were looking at it back 10 years ago, and now there's no radio station, Facebook, you get, what do you get? 5% of the people looking at it. It's kind of like you got to just throw it out there hoping that somebody's going to look at something.
Yeah.
That's a real problem in our area is
Communication.
getting the word out and communicating.
I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, let's see, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 24-49, approving the professional services, professional services agreement between Tree Mountain City and Wall Consultant Group, WCG, for the updating of Tree Mountain City Master Plan. This is you, Jeff.
The time's come to update one of our master plans, so we put it out as an RFP and got 2 good proposals back. With it, members of the DRC voted on, digitally at least, of which of the proposals they found had the most merit, or at least the most promise for the city, and it was the Wall Consultant Group. So they're familiar with doing transportation plans with rural entities. They're very excited and looking forward to this, and they believe they can get it wrapped up end of this year or very early next year. They have an outline in there of what the meeting schedule is and the analyses that they will provide. So I'm looking forward to it. I think an added bonus is they just finished doing Garland cities. And so there's a lot of good information that they have out of, you know, of what Garland's planning and thinking. And I'm hoping that that'll create a cohesive master plan between the two cities.
Good. Any question? You're on the DRC. Do you have any comments or
So
anything on that?
they charged Garland 20,000, is that what I read in here? To put
I'm
the
not sure, it's
plan,
been a while since I've looked through
I
it.
think I read that in there. I don't see their bid to us
Um,
in there. There's a lot of
Theirs
information
was-
here.
I think it was towards the very end. I think they were 58.
Can we see what they did for Garland before we spend that much money? I mean,
We aren't spending it. It's a reimbursement grant through the county.
it's a reimbursement.
So, the county, awarded, I think gave us a $60,000 limit ceiling for what their reimbursement grant would cover, and WCG's came in, I'm not, let's see here. In all the other cities. So that was, how we intended to pay for it, was getting the reimbursement through Box Elder. It's in there somewhere, I promise, Lindsay.
50 pages.
Yeah, it was really fun, and the other companies was about the same. So let's see here. No further. So that was it. Being able to utilize the county's reimbursement grant was how I had intended to pay for this service. It'll be the start of a few master plans that we will be updating through the next little while. We're at that fun time period where those are all coming up pretty consecutively. Now, there we go. Ah, you found it.
Grand total is $59,005.
Engineers.
And this,
Better than
this
our-
amount, that'll be, that's all qualifies for reimbursement.
I believe so. I can double check with the county.
Any other questions on
No.
that? Okay.
Here, your
You-
police guys are here if you want to do
Oh.
that now or
Oh,
then.
yeah, let's jump back. Item A. And this is the one where we're discussion and possible action on accepting the proposal for leasing police department vehicles from United Fleet Service. Okay, Skylar, you're on.
All right, so since October, I've been looking at different options for the police department fleet. Trying to find ways to save money, potential ways to save money, and just come to the city with options to see what's the best fit for our needs. In October, I came in contact with Bodie. He's on our left, and sorry, I'm drawing a blank on you. Mike. Met Bodie up in at a training in Yellowstone in October, and I've been talking to him and Cleat for quite a while about their fleet service. Thought it'd be worth bringing to you guys. Currently, just to give you guys a background, we have 19 vehicles in our fleet that are Tremont and city owned, not including the trailer up there. 6 of our vehicles are nearing 100,000 miles or 10 years old. So some of them are getting up there. You can go to the next slide. Currently, for our budget this year, we asked for $200,000 to purchase 4 vehicles, as well as $80,000 to outfit them on average. So we have $280,000 in the budget for this year, and some vehicles will be a little less than that. Some might be a little more, would cover everything. Currently, if I was to go to one of the dealerships on the state bid, buy a Chevy 1500 or an F-150, I would be in that $50,000 ballpark to just buy the truck outright. That can vary up and down depending on the VIN number, what the model is, the trim package, all that. So That's just a ballpark figure that I've been given. What Unified Fleet Service does, and I'll let them step in here in a minute, is they, like it says, try to help cut our costs, streamline our fleet services, and reduce our maintenance. Unified Fleet Services, we go to them, and I gave you guys a packet, or to Lindsay. Did you give that packet to him? Okay, you guys have a packet with several different bids from Unified Fleet Services. What they do is they go out and find the vehicles, procure them, and then we say we want a 12,000 mile lease or a 20,000 mile lease, and they give us a rate, which is in those packets. So, next. For example, I just chose to go with the F-150 and the Chevy 1500 on the next two slides. If we were to lease a vehicle from Unified Fleet Services for 20,000 miles a year, right now we're quoted at $10,137 a year to lease them. I'll let them get into this with you guys more, but on the right or the bottom right, you see $4,000 there. They project that at the end of our lease, we will be getting $4,000 back in equity in the vehicle that we can use as money going into the city, or we can apply it towards our next lease because we're going to have to repay these or replace these vehicles at 3 years. The anticipated net rate is, if you deducted that $4,000 across the 3 years, is what your actual rate would be. Same for the Chevy 1500. This one's a little bit more, about $11,572 a year to lease those vehicles. Okay. I went through and did some pros and cons on my end. From my research, I talked to Curtis as well. Some leasing cons are you're going to make 3 payments. So over the next 3 years, you're going to pay, let's say it was $11,000. I just used $11,000 as a rough number because it was right in the middle of the F-150 and the 1500. You do have a financing contract, and the vehicles aren't owned outright by the city. I talked to Curtis, I believe it was yesterday, and he's not able to be here, so I'll relay what he told me, and I appreciate talking to him. Curtis is not a fan of leases in the slightest. He doesn't like them, doesn't think they've gone well from his experience with cities. He had concerns because they reflected a debt on the city because we do finance these vehicles, and there's more admin work on it. So a couple other ones, I'm not quite sure what he meant by them, so I am not going to expand on those. He'll be able to talk to you guys about that, but he does want to see contracts and everything, which I would send over to him for approval. Before we did anything, I've sent him to our city attorney as well to look at that. So some of the purchasing cons are we got to pay $50,000 up front. So that's a big hit. It's a big hit compared to the 11 grand. Repair and maintenance costs are going to be higher if we own the vehicle after the powertrain warranty's out. A lot of warranties are out at 60,000 miles. There's a few manufacturers starting to come back with some of the 100,000 mile warranties. But after that warranty, we're on our own. Just to give you guys an idea, we have I believe it was one of our 2019 1500s that's out of warranty by about 10,000 miles. We got to just spend $15,000 on a new motor for it. So, but we need the vehicle for patrol, so it's what we've got to do. Fleet, on our current plan, we won't rotate them as frequently if we do our purchases. The plan, from what I've been told before I got into this, was 5 years, and then we sell the vehicle or pass them down to another department. That hasn't happened with all the vehicles. As you can see, several of those are over that 5-year period. Go ahead. Okay, some leasing pros. That first year, you're gonna save $39,000 on a vehicle. If it was a $50,000 vehicle, we had to pay 11 grand. Vehicles will be under warranty for the duration of the lease. This is a huge morale booster for our officers. Their patrol vehicle's their office. So just like people have their office in the city building, or I've got my office over at the police department, this is where they get to live and work and spend 10, 12 hours of their day. So we want to keep them as comfortable as we can. Often when leasing, at least what it looks like to me, is we're able to get a higher quality vehicle, some more of those creature comforts, better features for our officers for similar or the same money. Currently, we have some projects that we need to work on. Our body cams, for example, are very archaic, and our dash cam is. And if we were to look at the fleet option, leasing option, we could move a significant portion of those funds over to cover some of those body cam and dash cam expenses to bring us current with the times on that. Purchasing pros, you pay $50,000 and you're done. Okay, you don't have to finance the truck and you own the vehicle. At some point, you guys are gonna decide if we want to pass it on to Public Works or to Parks or whoever. We can pass that down. At some point, we can sell it if you decide to. So there is a little bit more freedom in that. Lindsay? In summary, if we were to buy or lease, 4 vehicles at $11,000 a year over the course of the 3-year lease, we'd pay $132,000 for those 4 vehicles, saving $68,000 for that time period. Leasing would allow us to update our fleet quicker, so we could maybe, instead of doing 4 vehicles, look at doing 5 or 6. We could lease, the leasing funds would be used for additional department needs. That's a picture of our body camera system over there that we would like to go to be with what other agencies in the county have. Just to give you an idea, you're between $275,000 and $300,000 for this system to get us current. So this is a big chunk each year that we could put towards that purchase with the same money. And again, there is a partial or a potential for residual payment to the city for the $4,000. Okay. That residual shows is there. I don't know what the economy is doing in 4 years. I don't know who does, really. If that's there, then fantastic. I'm personally not banking on it, but if it's there, then fantastic. I've talked to North Park PD. They use this fleet service and are very satisfied with the services they've been given. Their level of communication with the company has been excellent. Anytime I contact them, they follow right up. They came up about a month ago and met with Bill, myself, Chief, and some of Garland's council. I believe Garland's already gone to leasing with you, some of their vehicles, but they come up, are willing to work with us. I've been impressed with that. They do have several other agencies throughout the state that they can give us as references. I talked to Brigham City today. They have done leasing in the past for their PD. Currently, they aren't. They had some issues with their leasing company. I believe they went out of business, and so after that, it wasn't what they had signed up for. The county is leasing some vehicles, and then they're purchasing some vehicles, which I think would be an option for us. I don't think we lease 20 vehicles in or 19 vehicles. I think we lease a portion of them or a couple and see how it works. But my vehicle, Chief's vehicle, and our detectives' vehicles, we don't have the high idle time on them that patrol officers do. So those vehicles will last longer, and it's a safer bet to keep them in our fleet for a longer time. What I was researching is you have all these idle hours on your vehicle in addition to the miles. An idle hour is about the equivalent of 30 miles is what the studies are showing that I'm seeing. So, but I'd just like to consider this. I think it'll save the city money. It lets us have access to money now to get things we need as far as this dash and body cam system to be where the current, I guess, law enforcement expectations are. This will make work a lot easier for secretary, staff, the attorneys log in and they download the video. We don't have to send them video. There's a lot tighter chain of custody and security measures in place. So I think we can get a lot more for our money, and it's worth considering. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, as well as Unified. So
Why don't we, we're going to break, and then you guys will be sort of first on the agenda, and you can kind of do, if you had anything you needed to say, we can we can
One
address
quick
that.
question. When you lease them trucks, are they police up to, they've got cages, lights?
Whatever you guys want. Yeah, so whatever
For
they
that
decide
price.
they want in there.
No, so this,
That doesn't include
That's
that.
just the truck.
that's just the truck.
Yeah, so we have to figure out which sort of equipment. It's like the vehicles that would be used by police chief and that sort of thing usually don't have the cage in there. So those ones are a much lower price for the outfit. But most of what we do are ones that have that full light siren cage, everything. Right.
And we didn't do it that way just because we want it to be apples to apples if we're going to buy a vehicle from a dealership. So that's why we didn't add the upfitting into
Buy
it.
on state bid, you have that buying power the same?
Or better, we're often well below the state bid. So we're about $3 to $4 grand below state bid on F-150s. So, yeah.
All right, well, why don't we take a short break? We'll break for about 5 minutes and then we'll get started again. 7:06. We'll go ahead and start our regular city council meeting. Call this meeting to order. We have an opening ceremony. In that opening ceremony, I've asked Jeff Holt if he would offer us an opening prayer. And then following Jeff's prayer, we're going to have Wes Eastep lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go to that point. Thank you.
Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to gather as a Tremonton City Council and the city administration, and for all the public who have shown up to this meeting. We thank you for all this. We ask that you guide us all to work well together and to make things better for this city, and that we follow the guidance that you offer us. We ask you to help us be at peace and to know thy peace, Lord, always. This I pray in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
The audience, please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff and Wes. I just want to go through, we have several people here that probably are not here every week, and they're new. So I just wanted to introduce everybody, make sure you're familiar with us. I'm just starting over here with our city manager, Bill Cobain. Then we have Councilmember Jeff Holt, Councilmember Blair Westergaard, Councilmember Lyle Vance, myself, and Councilmember Brett Rhodey, and Councilmember Wes Eastep. And we have Lindsay Nesson. I don't think Cynthia's here tonight. Okay, Paul's not here with us. Paul Fulgham, our Public Works. We have Dustin Cordova, our police chief, back in the back. And Braden Hanson, our fire chief. And I think, am I missing anybody?
Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Jeff Seedall, our planner. We appreciate their efforts and all they do for our city. We appreciate that a lot. Next on the item, on the agenda is our opportunity to, are there any conflicts of interest, council, with the agenda tonight? Individual conflicts of interest?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Motion by Lyle Vance,
Second it.
second by Wes. Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes for July 16th, 2024. Council, are there any questions or comments about the minutes?
I move to adopt the minutes from the July 16 meeting.
I second it.
Seconded by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now this is kind of one of our favorite times, is an opportunity to recognize years of service. We have, first of all, Lynn Corbett with the Senior Center. Lynn, are you here? Okay, and Jeff Wickstrom from Public Works. There you are, Jeff. Come on up. We want to thank you. We appreciate all that Jeff does, and you know, a few years ago he had a traumatic experience with one of our employees, and you know, we appreciate. I mean, it was a life-saving event that you were involved with, and we just appreciate all you do. Appreciate all our Public Works and all our employees very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda is public comment period. This is your opportunity to address the city council regarding your concerns or ideas. Maybe before we get started, I just wanted to give a little brief update on 1000 North. Bill and I had a chance to talk to some of the workers up there and some of the concerns that have been expressed. I hope we can address those. We have worked with the police department and some of the concerns with some of the tickets being written and so forth. We're going to kind of, we understand that people have got to come and go in their neighborhoods and that kind of thing. So then on the I-84 overpass, the deck, they're going to be replacing or fixing the deck on the bridge on I-84. That will take place. We backed off our UDOT a little bit, and so that we can get one job done before we create, the construction on the overpass on I-84. That'll be September 23rd, September 23rd on that. So anyway, so I just wanted to make sure you were aware of kind of the situation to this point, and now the time is yours. You have 3 minutes per a comment period, and time is now yours.
All right, I have just a petition that 75 residents have signed. I'm Jamie Gardner, by the way. We've been in contact about various things. So many of the residents just reported about the tickets and stuff. That's been an issue, so thank you for helping resolve that so we can get to our homes. The other things we wanted to go over is number one, improved communication. Most of them did not even know of any closures, any ticketing, anything like that. And the affected neighborhoods also included like a retirement community. So many of which they don't have social media, they don't have websites. So I don't know if you would want to it would be more helpful if emails were sent out or texts if they had road closures. A lot of them are older, so like ambulances need to be able to get to and from. Enhanced signage would be super helpful. There's a lot of times when I'm coming out and we're told not to go east, but go west, but the whole road is dug up, so I'm like stuck in my cul-de-sac area and I can't move out. So opening eastbound somehow, I don't know if they can divide the road, make it more feasible for us to be able to go there, because we've been heading west, but west is being blocked as well. And we were told the construction would only hit, like 2,500 up to 2,650, but it's going beyond that now, which is right in our cul-de-sac area where we come out. So also there's been a few residents that were concerned that we tried to have like a grace period for those that had gotten tickets. There's a lot that it's a financial strain on them for the misdemeanor, a few of which they just came out from their homes. They looked left, they looked right. They slowly went into around, whoops, there goes my pen, wherever it could go. And then they ended up getting pulled over. Like it wasn't anything, awful. So a grace period for that would be nice. The other thing I wanted to focus on is like alternate safety measures. So a lot of times I've heard the city say, we need to make sure that the construction workers are safe. We need to make sure that everyone else is safe. But us residents, we've had issues where we've almost been hit by like trucks. We've almost been hit by backhoes, and it's become dangerous. We just need someone out there directing traffic. That'd be super helpful, or signs where it's like residents on this side, we're working on this side. I've had my vehicle damaged due to potholes and stuff where things weren't there, and I've had my car serviced thousands of dollars recently. Also, alternate safety measures, if you wanted to continue having, like if you're concerned about people speeding through that area, which could be a concern, you could maybe put up like mile markers, maybe 10 miles an hour or 5 or 3, and then if people go exceed that, you could pull them over. But for those of us that are just trying to get to our homes, it'd be super helpful to have more guidance, more signs, more knowledge, and more notice. And my time's up. Yep. Oh, and I stole his paper.
So I'm Jonathan Gardner. I'm one of the doctors down at Bear River Hospital. And so I'm also up in that neighborhood with her. And so one of the main issues that I have, so I was pulled over after I went through that area. It was on a Sunday. It was the first Sunday that they were patrolling. And the police officer who pulled me over, and I appreciate the care and the concern for wanting to keep people safe. I absolutely agree with safety. And their justification was, well, we want to keep the workers safe. It was Sunday. There were no workers out there, and the road was not blocked off. It did have the sign off to the side, but it had a good lane going all the way through. I was grateful that she only gave a warning. But my main concern as a physician is I need to get to the hospital frequently, quickly. I am on call for trauma. I'm on call for OB. They come at any time. And there's times where I have to get down there quickly. Now, I understand if there is a big ditch in the road, I shouldn't be passing that. That is not safe. But if it is passable in a safe manner, then I would really like to be able to get down for patient safety to be able to care for my patients and for our community. I agree that if it's not a safe manner to go through, absolutely, we shouldn't be going through there. But if we can put a speed limit on there that will keep the workers safe, or have flaggers and other things to try to keep us moving in and out of that community in a safe manner, that would be very helpful. Although the closed sign on the west end of it is just east of 2650, that still is a construction zone, and there are still heavy vehicles that are past the road closure area, and there's times where we can't go west. And so when the officer pulled me over the first time, she said, well, if you get pulled over again, you're probably not going to get the leniency that you did before. Well, I'm kind of stuck, especially when there's people there blocking my way, especially if I have a trauma. So being able to come up with a good solution so that we can safely navigate this area would be very appreciated. We are grateful that you guys are fixing the road. That was a terrible road, and we are very grateful for you guys putting in your efforts to get that fixed. Hopefully we can come up with a way, though, that we can get in and out of our community safely and liberalize what is local traffic. Some of the cops have said, well, only those living on 1000 North are local. Some said, well, people east of 2650 are local. I think that whole community that empties into that area should be considered local.
Thank you. Yeah, Bill asked 10 days ago if he was going to said he's going to come, and he needed a little more time. We granted that time to him.
10 minutes, please. Again, my name's Bill Rosema. It's nice to see you again. Mayor, do you remember we were in a city council meeting one time and a gal got up here and berated you, gave you all kinds of trouble? You were a traitor and a backstabber for selling your land. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was out of line. It's your private property. You have every right to sell it and do what you want with it. It's called capitalism. There's a lot of people moving in this town, and some of the locals are upset. I'm a transplant. I born and raised in Pocatello. I'm a transplant myself. I moved in here because the housing was cheaper. It's exploded. It's a lot more expensive than when I moved in. People tend to gravitate when they're cheaper. People also said, first time I came to a city council meeting, we were talking about how they supported the military. Well, as a retired Marine, that sounded really great to me. Well, show me. If you support the Marine if you support the military and you support me, then you support every single U.S. citizens in this country right to live, work where they want. The people are coming. And, you know, if you want to complain about the illegal immigrants, well, I'm on board with that. They don't need to be here. They need to be south of the border, and we need to close the border. But a U.S. citizen has a right to live and work anywhere they want in this country. This place is growing. Jeff Hoyt, sir, you talk about being fiscally responsible. That's why I voted for you and I supported you. I want you guys to watch costs as much as you possibly can, okay? But that said, not at the expense of public safety, okay? So last time I was here, we was talking about county land that needed to be annexed to put sewers in there so that it would be safer. Well, if we annex that property, it comes into the city, and now you get property taxes from that, so you have more money, okay? That's the way I see it. I'm not an expert in this, but that's the way it looks to me. When the gentleman down there brought up, or who was it you that brought up that the other city didn't do it, and then they had a problem with dark water or whatever, and so it cost them an outrageous amount of money to bring it in later? It sounds like a no-brainer to me to do it now when it's going to cost less money instead of later when it's going to cost more. Public safety is a big deal. Infrastructure around here is a big deal. The roads things have got to change. This place is getting crowded. So you have to have the number of public safety workers that can handle all that. And like I said last time here, you need to triple the code enforcement. We need to at least double animal control. Anyway, like I said, I appreciate being fiscally responsible. We want to do that as much as possible, but again, not at the sacrifice of safety for the people. Other thing I want to mention in here is housing is exploding. Real estate is exploding here. People are building everywhere. I'm a little disappointed with all the high-density housing. I think when you cram so many people into such a small area, you're probably going to have more problems and need more law enforcement. I would encourage the city to approve less permits for high-density housing, more permits for single-family homes. And I don't know how people live in those environments. I couldn't do it. It'd drive me nuts. People need space to move. And when you're crammed in tight, and you got a neighbor on the other side of the wall and a neighbor on this side of the wall, and you're coming and going, and there's just crowds of people, you're just asking for trouble. So I would like to see high-density housing kept to a minimum. And I'm going to shut up now.
Thanks, Bill.
So,
Appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for your time.
Can you hear me okay now? Apparently my mic needed to be closer to my mouth. Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to go back to addressing the issue on the construction there.
Got to state your name, Mayor.
My name is Lisa Christensen. I live at 1070 North Valley View Drive. And first, I want to thank the construction company. I think they've done a wonderful job trying to clear the road so that we can have access. Every day when they're completed, they complete to a certain point to where we can get in and out. And I think they've done a wonderful job doing that. The thing that I am disappointed in is a lack of communication. We can drive down I was told by a police officer that because of where I live on Valley View Drive, at 1070 North Valley View Drive, that I was to exit Valley View Drive and go east. There are times when that isn't safe for me or for the construction workers. And so I back up and I go around and go up and go west out the other exit, which I think is 2650 west. But anyway, so my biggest concerns are, number one, I appreciate what the company's doing. I appreciate how the construction company and how they're handling it. Number two, the communication. I think the communication could be better. They could have some type of signage or something saying, go out 2650 west to right now, or go out, and it can change during the day. I understand that. I understand construction can change during the day. So I have to pull up and evaluate, because nobody's there to tell us where to go. Do I go east or do I back up and go west? Every day I have to do that. So those are my biggest concerns, and the safety for the workers and the residents, and the mixed information from the ticketing, what's been happening with the ticketing. I think that's a real big issue as well, because some are being ticketed when I don't think they should be, but some are being ticketed and some are not being ticketed. So those are my issues. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate all the service that you guys render. Thank you.
I'm Diana Dutry. I live on 1000 North. I was on the city council for 10 years, and I fought really, really hard to get this road done, and I'm so happy you're doing it. But.
Always a but.
But, yeah, I just think it's just like a marriage. We kind of need to get both sides of this to come together. And I see the sign says, you can't go down this road except for local people only. And then you ticket them. If I was them and you gave me a ticket and I had to get out of there, I don't have to get out of there, I can go west. But if I had to get out of there with that sign, I would go to the judge and ask for a jury trial. Because I don't think there's a jury in this country that would stay on the side of them because if they can't get out of their homes. I think we just got to come together on this. And then the other thing is, I know that a lot of people are concerned with the trucks that are going to come down there, or they're worried about the big trucks. And when I was on the council, we put up those signs because we didn't want the big trucks on that residential area, the big semis. And the signs didn't really slow a lot of people down. And I called a couple of the, if I can mention names, I called Chanshire and I called Lish's, because they seemed to be the ones that were really going up and down there a lot. And it didn't help at all. So I don't know I think ticketing that kind of them a couple of times would be more effective than ticketing, anyway. I can really see that there's both sides of this, and I would love to have it, resolved in a really good way, but I really feel like you should not ticket people that are going up and down there when that's the only way they can go. And I appreciate you, love you to death, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana.
It's unusual for a city councilman to speak in the middle of public time, but Chief Cordova, what is our position now on writing tickets up that road at this point so that we don't have to keep going through this?
Yeah, so these are my neighbors and I care about them, and I don't want you guys to think we're out to get anybody. Our position is pretty clear. I've talked to my troops and we've kind of asked them to be kind and to lean towards giving warnings more than anything. The reality is this, folks, and it's unfortunate because there's plenty of laws I may not personally agree with. There's plenty of laws my officers may not agree with. But at the end of the day, we don't make the law, we have to enforce the law. Now, with the thorough traffic things, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. If you live in the area and there's a sign that says that and it somehow makes it, because we make mistakes, we're just humans, and it goes to court, our judge is great out here. He will toss that right out, and accidents do happen. The goal here is to enforce the law but not burden anybody or really attack anyone. As long as some of those signs, I went and checked it myself. On one side, it does have a hard road closure. On the other side, it allows thorough traffic. I don't know if that's been addressed. I checked it yesterday. And I think signage would help. I got to agree with my neighbors on that. And also us being more lenient if you do live in the neighborhood. And that's already been passed forward. As far as the safety thing, and like the doctor said as well, there's always the exception to the rule, and that's why we allow our officers to have discretion. The issue is not only do we want to protect the workers on the road, we want to protect our community members as well. And one of my sergeants was telling me we narrowly had a vehicle hit going down the road, even with the flaggers, with all that heavy equipment. We've gotten lucky a few times, and aside from that, me personally, I've been going the long way. Obviously, I got to be able to respond to emergencies, and I would assess that based on what I'm going to. But the reality is, I haven't driven down it once, and that is because I don't want to damage my vehicle either. My understanding is the road's gotten a lot better, and if that's the case, I think we should reevaluate. But in talking to the mayor, I think signage, I agree with the neighbors here as far as like flaggers during those times, and I think we just got to be responsible with the signage. If it's a Sunday and we don't need that there, maybe we turn it around or face it away. But we do have the burden to enforce that law. It's a state code, and we don't really get too much.
Are they our signs or are they
They're there.
the contractors? They're the contractor signs.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. That would be more of a Paul question.
So the city doesn't put the signs up, it's the construction company doing it?
Correct, and like I said, me and the mayor have talked in length on this, and I think we could do better with the signage, because one side allows it, the other side doesn't. That's confusing to my officers, that's confusing to my neighbors. I think that would help tremendously, and also understand we're working together on this. It's frustrating for me as someone who lives in the neighborhood on a personal level, but I also understand the need for it. My hope is that we can avoid that area as much as possible so they can get things done and we can get that thing open and we can move on. Because of my understanding, we're going to have another one around the corner with UDOT on the freeway side. So, signage is huge, but we're here to work with you. We're going to lean towards giving warnings. There are some people that the construction zone has complained about that are repeat offenders and really don't have any business in the neighborhoods up there. They don't. And that's causing a safety hazard as well. So it's hard to identify those for my cops, but they're doing the best they can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
How's it going, sir? David Merrick, retired Master Sergeant. I was actually Tech Sergeants with your son Dallin at Hill for a while. We were over in the training squadron, but short story long. Good guy. I liked him a lot. I love his beard too on Facebook. Looks really good. I can't grow mine. So short story long, in a 2-week period, we had 2 vehicles with 3 flats. Another vehicle lost its headlights because of the vibrations going over 1,000 west. And the big kicker, as the law enforcement officer mentioned about damaging his vehicle, we are looking at an $8,300 bill for my wife's 2016 CX-9. Took it to Mazda because the head is cracked where the turbine, I don't know if you guys are car guys, but where the turbo mounts to the head on the exhaust manifold, it's leaking coolant, which is a known issue. So even though it's a nice, beautiful SUV with 110,000 miles on it, they say, don't take it off-road. So when I took it in, they're like, our biggest fear has come to pass. It does have a cracked cylinder head. You haven't had to take it off-road lately, have you? I was like, as a matter of fact, both ways out of my neighborhood is a pretty rocky road. As slow as my wife goes, sometimes 4 or 5 miles an hour, as low as the speedometer register. you can't see everything at night. We've hit a couple of dips, we've hit a couple of potholes. So Mazda said, hey, talk to your warranty company. Warranty company says, hey, talk to your insurance company. The insurance company says, you can claim this if you're at fault, but it's going to make your premium change. And they said, you should go after the city. I was like, well, we just happen to have an open house or whatever you call this tonight. And they have no doubt that the vibration and way I described leaving my neighborhood and entering it, likely, yeah, it is an issue, but it exacerbated it and accelerated what was a known issue with the cracked cylinder head. So, like I said, we're looking at an $8,300 bill. I'm looking for any guidance, suggestions. Like I said, we've talked to Mazda, insurance, warranty, and now I'm coming to the city. 110,000 miles, a car that we meticulously maintain. And in a 2-week period, I mean, we've had the car for 72,000 miles in 4 years. Causation and correlation aren't necessarily the same, but haven't had a problem before road construction, and now we are leaking, cooling out of the block like a sieve. So again, any guidance either now or maybe afterwards or follow up on the minutes, you guys tell me, or you can tell me to get lost and I'll go try and bark up another tree. But again, I'm looking at every avenue between the 4 different entities. Didn't have a problem before road construction, and now we're having a problem with multiple vehicles after.
Well, why don't we would be happy to talk to you if you want to talk. Probably not in this meeting.
No, of course, yeah, this isn't the forum, but yeah, again, I just wanted to raise my concerns and the fact that I'm sorry, what is your name? Chief Cordova would mention he didn't want to damage his car. That's why I laughed. It was unprofessional. I'm sorry about that, but that's exactly why I was up to talk to him after, or up to you guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
My name is Joshua McMillan. I live at 1252 North, 3130 West. They're at the top of Radio Hill up above Bob's Boat Shop. And I just wanted to say I appreciate that we're working on the roads. I appreciate that the state's working on the bridge. Moving forward, the announcement that's gone out about that bridge closing on the 12th means a lot of us will have to start going through this construction site. And so there's a lot of concern that the problems that you're hearing now are only going to get worse. I'm sure you guys have heard that. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Maybe you weren't here when we did mention that. They backed that time off to September 23rd.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ann Carter. I am also a resident up in that Spring Acres subdivision. I live right off of the Valley View Drive as well. I was one of the ones that was ticketed coming down, going the direction that I was told to go. Coming down to the bottom, I was not able to go out to the east. I had to go to the west and was ticketed. First thing in the morning, I've spoken with 11 other residents that were also pulled over and were only given warnings. So I'm not sure why I, doing the exact same thing, was the one that was ticketed. My other concern is that also the communication. I've spoken with several of my neighbors who are in their 70s, right across the street. Like I'm sorry, but I don't follow Tremont City Facebook page, even though I, do use social media. They do not. Going and getting the signatures today was the first time they had heard anything about it at all. They had not yet been pulled over. I have 3 other drivers in my home that are teens and young adults, and the anxiety in calling mom to find out how do I get home is upsetting, to say the least, that they are terrified. I'm sorry, love you guys, and what you do, but my children, they don't, they're just afraid to do something wrong, and so they're like, how do we get home? And that's also a concern that I've had. And as well that I was one of the ones that was ticketed. And as for the safety of all of us, I know we need to have an exit way to get out. The flaggers were there for the one, maybe 2 weeks there was a flagger. And sometimes I'd come to the road and they'd say, go this way, go this way. You know, so then you come down and they haven't been there for probably the last 3 weeks. We've been dealing with this since the 1st of June, right when the construction started. The road closed sign, which I understand it's on 1000, but it should be up by, I don't know Jim Christensen's address, but technically I feel it should be back there because we are still driving through and past excavators, dump trucks, heavy equipment with no flaggers the last, month, once the flaggers have left. So that's my big concern too, is the signage needs to be changed. Even if there's something, if we get to the bottom and there's a, don't go to the left this day, don't go to the right that day, but it literally changes throughout the entire day, depending on where they're working. I understand that there's 2 different companies or 3 different companies that are possibly working on the road itself. So that's my biggest concern.
Thank you, Ann. And you come in and talk to us about some of this other, we'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Thank you.
And this goes for all of those comments. If you've got some questions or comments and you need further information, we want to hear what you have to say.
My name is Ron Hawkins. I live on 1040 North Valley View Drive. Fortunately, I didn't get a ticket. I drive a lot. Probably odds are going to catch me pretty soon, but I appreciate what you guys do. My father-in-law served up there for many, many years, Dwayne Falk. And I know the angst and stress that it caused him. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate you getting that road done. It needed to get done. I'm going to ask the police chief to do something because you do serve us. And rather than giving a directive to give the option to your police officers, I'm asking you to tell them to quit ticketing us. That is wrong. That sign for trucks has been up there forever. I've never seen you guys once pull over a truck. Never once. And then I hear the truck brakes come down at 5:30 in the morning and nothing's done. If you're going to give a ticket, I'm asking you to do it in the right way. Ticketing us people who live up there is flat out wrong. So I'm asking you to quit doing that.
Sir?
Yes.
You're addressing the council.
Okay.
Not the audience.
Well, I addressed him. That's all I have to say. So,
Okay.
thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Ron.
Paul Anderson. I live in Valley View Drive, 2659. I don't know what I live at. Anyhow, they tell us, the neighbors that live on 1000 North, that they cannot cross the concrete ribbon that they're putting up for 3 weeks. Is there any way that they can do half of the driveway for these people so they can get in and out of their yard instead of parking on the street where behind the equipment? There's people parking behind the equipment during the weekends and weekdays when you have people coming in to visit you. Is there any way that they can leave half the driveway open for the ribbon for 3 weeks and then come back and do the other half and close it off for 3 weeks?
So you're talking about the individual
Individual houses that
private
live
accesses?
live along 1000 North,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And also for the intersection. If they shut down a whole intersection, then we all got to go around the other way, and they don't know which way to go. So that's...
We've spoken with the workers there. I don't know that we spoke with the chair or the supervisor, but there was talk about that they were very concerned about the private drives and that kind of thing, and so maybe we need to look at that a little stronger and make sure that you have access to your private property.
Well,
Is that what you're saying? Did I understand you right?
Right, yeah, they need the access, like the one guy's building his house there, and they've shut down for 3 weeks, and winter's coming on, and he's got his house half built, you know? But anyhow, that's in the old days, I'm not that old, but anyhow, we used to do half the driveway for the people, and then we'd come back and do the other half, you know, after they can cross it, or even after it's paved. They can put in curb and gutter on that, but that's
This is
my-
something we can talk to them about, make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'd like to thank everybody for your comments. Did you have, no, you already,
I just had a question though. How far west are they going with the road this time?
2650, I think. is-
No, it's going past 2650.
It's going to the sheds for almost.
Okay.
Sheds, right?
Yeah, not to the sheds.
Just back from the storage sheds, just
Just past you.
east of them storage sheds.
It's where you turned out the Woods house on the south side, so it's.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. We're going to move on with our meeting. Council, and thank you. Thanks to every one of you who have gotten up and shared your concerns. I know this is something we're all trying to work our way through, and the thread that I kept hearing was communication and making sure that we get the word out to you, and you know, we'll try to do our best to improve on that. But it's just, hopefully when this is all done, it'll all be worth it when it's all completed and finished and we have nice roads. Okay, we had for our new council business, we during our work session, we discussed, we were talking about police department vehicles being leased from the United Fleet Services. That meeting or that discussion kind of got cut short. So we'll start with that and have you guys come up and you can share your information with us. And this is a discussion and possible action, so we may and may not make a decision tonight.
Come back up, guys. All right, so I know we stopped with questions. What questions can we answer for you guys?
Do have one question. So basically, what's the escape clause? If you go into this agreement, what's the duration of it? Or if it's not working out and does go bad?
So the lease that we have quoted in the examples I gave you is 3 years. Yeah, do you want to talk to the
Yeah,
clause?
you can exit at any point. Every single year throughout the lease, there's a buyout amount listed. We do that from the very beginning. There's no, surprise early termination fee, anything like that. Whatever we put on the quote, that's on that final lease stock. Whether you want to exit 6 months in or, 4.5 years in, you can exit at any time, and it's just that payoff amount.
Thank you.
So back to mine, Skylar.
Yeah.
I can see the price difference on the vehicles and all that, but we still plan 20 grand for a cage and lights and that, right?
Yes, yep.
So every truck that we lease from these is still gonna cost us 20 grand.
Correct.
Usually what we do on those, we finance that into the lease. With how our program works, usually we get about 7 to 8 grand back when we sell that vehicle with the equipment in there. So you have 3 years of use on it. We turn around and sell it with the equipment in and cycle you into something new. The officers get brand new vehicles with brand new equipment, so we're not trying to somehow shoehorn in old equipment into a different car when we cycle. It's usually, we find it's the most efficient way to do it. It costs about 3 to 5 grand to pull the old equipment out if you're gonna give it to another department. That's a vehicle without the lights and sirens, right? And so after adding up all the costs, that's usually how we do it. So it ends up being roughly about 4 grand a year added to the lease to put that equipment in, if you do it our way, which is, upfit them and then sell them at the end of 3 years with the equipment in.
And when you sell them, who gets the money?
You get all the profit from the vehicle.
So you were saying only $4,000 after 3 years?
Yeah, that's what we have calculated in there, as
So a $50,000 truck in 4 years is only worth $4,000?
No, that's your net amount. That's your profit going back. So that's not what it's worth at the end. We're saying, 41,444 is what we've got in that first one. So the payoff, sorry, let me slow down. That first box that we've got there on year 3, the bottom row, if we go over to the second, the furthest right, the projected residual is $41,444. That's what we're getting from the dealerships when we turn it in as a used vehicle on a wholesale basis. The buyout amount on that vehicle is $37,444. That's where there's a $4,000 spread of profit that you'd be getting back. So we're using the buyer to pay off the amount that's still left on that lease, so.
The anticipated net rate, that 76.29, what is that?
Basically, if we just add up that 89.63, those 3 years of payments, minus out that $4,000 anticipated profit back at the end, and divide it again by 3, that's how we end up with what the total cost is after you get your profit
So
back.
that's the interest that you're charging on it? Is that that's what it is? That's the cost?
No.
Still don't know what it is. What is the interest rate on it?
It depends on how much that you finance. The interest rate goes down the more that we do. So anywhere
The
from.
interest, yeah, but what is the net effective interest rate on it? So you're saying that it's more interest if you borrow more money?
No, opposite. It's less interest if you're borrowing more money.
So what is that interest rate?
Well, it depends on how much you're borrowing. And so it could be anywhere from 575 upwards to 670, 6.7. So it depends on how much you end up doing.
So am I right that the 76.29, I'm just trying to figure this out as well. If we take the 89.63 and add all of those up and then subtract out the 4,000, does that come to 76.29?
Per year, when you divide by 3.
That's with the 4,000 factored into it.
Exactly, yeah. It's just factoring that profit back at the end.
Well, over the years, I've been a banker my whole lifetime, and there's as many leases as there are people out there. I mean, I for one would like to see this get tabled and let our CPA do an analysis on the contract to see what the real cost is, and go from there with it. I think I don't have enough information there to know what's going on.
Is that going to be, is that a motion?
Well, we're just talking about,
We're just discussing it, though.
Yeah,
I know, but we're doing something with this. Are you wanting to table it, or do you want to?
Yeah, let me.
And I did get a copy of a blank contract to send to Curtis and, like I said, Dustin.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
And so they'll have that. So.
I think we just need more information. We need to study it. Maybe that's kind of the thing that we need to, if I'm hearing from the council, that's kind of what we're thinking.
Yes. No, that makes.
I mean, like you said,
So this isn't a
cheap
resolution.
vehicles out, or
no.
This is just a discussion.
But-
how many vehicles? are you-
But possible action. What's the action you want to take?
So how many vehicles are we looking at getting?
I mean, are you gonna try to do all 19 vehicles?
No, we're not. I think where it's something new, we try it with a few, maybe 4 to 6 of them, and see if it's a benefit to the city over the course of the first lease cycle, and then we make a decision at that point to see if we continue leasing or if we go back to purchasing.
go back to that one, Lindsay, that shows all the years of the vehicles and miles. I know, yeah. No, it was the one before that one. Oh, it was probably on Skyler's.
Oh, the miles of the vehicles?
That's okay.
Yeah, our current
Well,
fleet, you
yep.
had the years and how
Yeah.
many miles they had on them. Can we see that again?
Yeah.
I know I've seen that somewhere.
We've got 19 in the fleet right now. How many cars do we need?
I think we're scheduled for.
We're scheduled for 4 to replace them.
Okay, so we need 19 total, and we're gonna keep 19. We need to replace 4 of them. Is that what I'm hearing?
So, yeah, so I would really like to keep 1 or 2 of the ones we're rotating out as a backup vehicle. Our current backup vehicle that's in the fleet right now has 138,000 miles on it. That's actually my old truck from 2016. But our backup, I guess, if you will, vehicles or spare vehicles are our T55 and T50. And I can email this over to you, Lyle, as well. So these mileage numbers were, I submitted to Cynthia right around budget year, right before that. So they're pretty close. So we'd like to keep 19. But with that said, have some spares. So we have 17 sworn officers on the Tremont side, and then we've also got to account for animal control and code enforcement vehicles. So that's why if you look in your packet, there's a quote for, I believe it's a Ford Maverick in there, which is a very inexpensive vehicle that would cover their needs, so.
Well, and we have vehicles going down, and oftentimes that leaves us in a place, because what's the turnaround on the engine?
Probably another couple weeks. And it was last week we
Well, that's just
okayed
for
them,
the
so.
park, though, right?
To get it put in, I'd say another couple weeks from probably 3 weeks.
We'll borrow you back the one you give us.
Well, and we like passing, I like the idea of passing vehicles on, but I don't want to pass a lemon on to Public Works or to Parks or to whoever else would need that vehicle, because these vehicles have high idle hours on them. They've got high mileage. They're cop vehicles. They're not driven usually how vehicles should be driven with what they're used for, so.
So is the fleet money, is the money in your budget, or is it a separate?
It's in our budget, and they budget to rotate these vehicles every, is it 3?
From what I was told, it was every 5 years. That hasn't been happening. Because the ones from 2016 should have been gone in 21 if we were to go 5 years. But I would love to, if we don't go on a lease thing, set it up to where on the 5th year, we're rotating the vehicle regardless, because you got 5-year-old equipment in that vehicle at the time as well, which is a safety concern. That stuff burns out, that wears out, there's wear and tear on it, so it's more than just, getting them a new vehicle. It's keeping equipment in there to keep them safe and doing the job they need to, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if the quality's changed, but we were having issues with some of these trucks, like major issues. And even if, I know the sheriff's office does a modified fleet where a lot they'll purchase, and then other ones they'll use leasing, because those vehicles, especially on a patrol, they take a beating. And again, we're not really, we just want to give the council options to save. We just got to look at the facts, is this going to make more sense to lease and then have it warranted, or are we going to gamble and have some of these go out where we take a hit on an engine repair or transmission, you name it. We've had a ton of issues. So I think we just got to do that analysis and see what makes sense. And the reason I'm having Skylar present this is he's done a lot of work specifically on fleet, managing the cars, to take that off my plate, and he's done a lot of networking here, so it's only fair that, he gets to present it to you.
Mayor, well, we appreciate that.
Mayor?
Yes.
Skylar, so
Yeah.
What would help me is comparing apples to apples. Okay, if we had a 5-year lease and we're trying to rotate every 5 years, to me, those numbers match better than a 3-year lease with trying to rotate every 5 years. I'm not seeing cost savings. I'm not seeing really anything. I think I need a better analysis.
Okay.
I know.
And we do that
I know
all the
you
time,
mentioned that,
just
so.
showing the difference of if you were to
Yeah.
pay cash on that asset over the 5 years, what do you get back at the end
Yeah,
versus doing a lease?
I think that needs to be included in the data as
That's
well.
not a problem.
Mayor, if I may. We did this in Pleasant View. We went to a lease program instead of an outright purchase, and it not only ended up saving the city quite a bit of money, but the officers were happy, as was pointed out. It was a morale boost for them because they were more comfortable and they felt like the city cared about their work environment. And it was just an overall very positive experience. We didn't use these guys. These guys offer a great product. It's different than what we did. We just went with a straight lease through the auto dealership, and through the state pricing, it ended up being just just fine. We didn't have as many vehicles there. We had, I think, 12 vehicles that we rotated through, and still were able to save quite a bit of money, and ended up being worth another full-time police officer position at the city. So it was definitely worthwhile. So I'm in favor of the chief and his work. I'm in favor of Skylar and his research into this, and fully supportive of what they're trying to do.
Very good, thank you.
We're just trying to find ways to make our money go further if it makes sense for the city,
Right.
so
We
like
appreciate
dash and body cams, so.
We're in 100% support of the police department, you know.
Yep,
But our
100%.
job too is to figure out which is the most
Exactly.
cost-effective approach to it.
And you're only a piece of the pie.
We'll give you guys all the information, let you
So we,
decide.
we want to follow through and make sure that we're making the right choice for Tremont and cities, for the taxpayers, so.
100%.
We need to have that analysis done.
Okay, we'll get it for you. Okay, thank you, guys.
Do we have a direction? I guess what I'm hearing is we're going to table this and then just have you guys come back with a little more analysis and help us to make a decision. Okay.
Curtis involved with it.
And get Curtis involved. And that's the plan. That was the plan all along, so.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-47, approving the water use and preservation element of the Tremonton City Integrated Land Use Plan. And for those in the, at our meeting here tonight, we've had a work session and we had a presentation on this prior to this meeting. So I think there were some concerns and some questions, but I think generally, I think we're ready to go. Jeff, do you want to
I have a
answer any
question.
questions that we might have?
Can we, I mean, it sounds like we could approve it, that we're gonna go that way, because the meats and the bones are right, but can we approve it without having the updated numbers? Or does that need to be done first?
I think we can just make you know, I think they were not
We're not changing it.
really big things. I think there were just some updates, so we needed to get some more current information where it was maybe possible to get that information. And I'm sure you've got all this on your, you know, it's all on your computer in a file, and we just need to update it. Yes, sir.
So when is it due again?
Next December.
Next December.
The sooner, though, we can get this in, the sooner
It's
that
the
people
first
can apply
domino.
for
It's
granting.
the first domino to go in a line of ordinances that we are trying to work on, including some revisions to, or at least with some new code adoption, a new chunk of code that we're working on. So holding this up kind of puts the rest of those back, because we can't really, I mean, the inspiration and the reason we're changing this is, one, from the state, but two, once we get this passed, it's the justification for why, like, the landscape ordinance will change and some of the subdivision development codes and practices will change. So without this, we don't really have anything in the general plan that verifies or validates what those changes are. So this is the first domino, and we can wait on it, but it will be holding up quite a few pieces of subdivision updates.
Can I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2447 with, so that you can start moving forward, but revise the statistics that Jeff had brought up in his discussion as part of that land use plan.
Second. Motion by Brett and seconded by Jeff. This is the first one we're going to do tonight, so.
West, aye.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Odie. Motion passes. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for all the work that you put into this. I know it's been a lot of work for you guys and the Planning Commission and everybody else. Discussion and possible action of adopting resolution number 24-48, approving a professional services agreement between Tremonton City and Bear River Live for the promoting and highlighting of community events. Let's see. Bill?
Did send me some numbers.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So she said the ones you had found is just their YouTube channel. And she said that you have to, those are people who are actively seeking that site, who know about it. So their main way they reach people is Facebook and Instagram for their show. The Sports and Bear get lots more views because it goes through KSL. Talk of the Town is the new segment that would be our advertising area. She said the average views for the past 12 shows was 690 through Facebook, with the last episode getting 1.1 thousand. And Facebook, they have 1.6 thousand followers, and YouTube, they have 1.56 thousand followers. And Instagram, they have 1,185 followers. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that update. That was great. And then this would be a good way, I know we just keep hearing about communication, and this will be just one of those tools. Won't reach everybody, but it'll be one of those tools that we can use.
It's transparency that they want if they can find it, okay? My mother will never find it, but I think that we're trying to give the people what they want. Here's what's going on, so I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 24-48.
I second it.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Lyle. Let's see, Brett?
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff Odie.
Wes, aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, everybody. Discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-49, approving a professional services agreement between Tremonton City and Wall Consultant Group, WCJ, for the updating of Tremonton City's transportation master plan. And again, this is Jeff.
Yeah, and we went through this and,
Oh, did you want to?
no, but I think as long as the money's being reimbursed through a grant, I feel like 60,000 is a lot of money, but if we've got a grant for it, then we're fine. So I will make a motion that we adopt resolution 2449 as stated.
And I second it.
Motion by Brett and seconded by Lyle Vance. Let's see, Lyle?
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Comment before I give my vote, but as stated with the steering committee, I'm hopeful that when this plan is done, that they will look into population projections, the grade that we currently have at Tremonton Main Street and where that might lead to and what actions would occur as a result of that. And with that stated, Jeff Hote, aye.
Wes, aye.
Brett, aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Jeff says if the county doesn't reimburse us for that, then he'll take it out of his salary.
Okay.
I'm sure he's not smiling right now.
Good for it.
Not seeing that as a joke.
Totally.
I'll say that because I don't make that much, and I'm quitting, so.
All right.
So I'm just curious, is it a federal grant? Is that where that money's coming from, or is that just our real estate taxes being used?
I believe it comes through the,
Corridor preservation funds.
corridor preservation funds.
Through the
from county.
county? So it's not a grant to them, where this is part of our,
It's
Yeah.
$10 they tack on to each motor vehicle registration within the county. It's used for corridor
Kind of a bittersweet, isn't it?
Did you have any more?
Nothing's free.
All right. Moving on to item number F. Item letter F. Discussion and E. Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion and possible action of adopting resolution number 24-50, appointing Nate Christensen as the emergency manager.
We've had a lot of discussion on this, right?
Yeah, if I could just speak very briefly, we've had some discussion prior. I am currently listed as the city emergency manager. I acknowledge that I do not succeed in that role, not for lack of interest, but for lack of time and ability. And I have really strongly endorsed Nate Christensen, who's a fire captain for us, to take that role. He's expressed a great interest in it. I believe he has the talent and aptitude to be far more successful than I would be, and really more successful than anybody else that I could point to at this point, to take on that role as city emergency manager.
Okay.
Comment?
Yeah.
So I was asked to look at emergency management as one of the areas of concern. I'm highly supportive of this in meeting with the county emergency management officials and discussions and other groups that are meeting that I've been sharing some information with the fire chief. I think this is a great move.
Okay, very good. You want to follow that up with a?
I move.
There's more discussion, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
again, this comes to that fine point of administrative versus legislative. Is this one of those that need to fall under?
This is in the ordinance that it's advising.
Advice and consent, yeah.
This is one of those positions listed.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the value or the importance of this position. Because even if I had the authority to delegate it, I think it warrants council appointment. And Nate's here because he's very interested in your decision.
I got a comment. The emergency manager in the fire department he happens to be the captain, but it's two different jobs in two different areas. When there's something, the fire department, the fire chief has to respond to it. The emergency manager has to keep going. You have a flood, the fire department helps, but then 10 months later, the emergency manager is still trying to fix what happened. It's not even the same job. It shouldn't be the same job, so I'm totally supportive. And I know Nate well, and he just happens to be on the fire department, in my opinion.
Yep.
I move that we adopt resolution number 24-50, appointing Nate Christensen as emergency manager.
Second it.
Motion by Jeff and seconded by Blair. Let's see, Blair?
Blair, aye.
Jeff Hoda, aye.
West side.
Brett, I.
We're lucky to have you, Nate. Lyle Vance, aye.
I agree. Totally agree. Thank you very much. Okay, now item number, letter F. Discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-51, appointing Andrea Miller to serve on the Tremonton City Planning Commission and reaffirming and appointing existing planning commission members. Council, Brett, do you have anything where you're? Is Andrea here?
Oh, Jeff.
No, she's out of town.
Okay.
I was just here.
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, we interviewed two candidates that expressed interest, and we thought with the position that was open that Andrea would fill it best. She's a very connected individual, both in the community, but also with her children who are right in the heart of elementary school. So I think she'll bring a lot of great perspective and hopefully good foresight to the Planning Commission. And she will be starting a new term, which is kind of a first because the last few appointments have been replacements and not, fresh new members.
And reaffirming appointing existing planning commission members, so that would be our current ones and just reappointing them to their current roles.
Question?
Council? Yeah.
Just a question, because I'm not recalling off the top of my head. So in the reappointments, what then becomes the end date of term?
Those listed.
It all stays the same. It's listed here.
So some of them
For
are
example,
coming up
Micah-
in a month.
Micah comes up in September 2024.
So then he'll have to be considered or for reappointment or replacement at that point in time, just a month away?
Yep.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 24-51. And if it passes, welcome aboard.
I second it.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Brett. Let's see, Jeff?
Jeff Hoda, aye.
West side.
Brett, I.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Let's see, the last item on our new council business, discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-52, appointing Brad Jansen and Haley Curl to serve on the Tremonton City Library Board and reaffirming the appointing existing library board members. Any discussion on this? We didn't quite get to this point on our workshop, but Jeff, do you have, I think you're over the
Library Board.
library board. Do you have any comments or anything on this?
I'm supportive. I have no concerns. Okay.
Is this Brad Jansen that was on the planning commission?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we adopt resolution number 24-52.
Second?
Motion by Lyle Vance and seconded by Jeff Holt. Let's see, back to you.
West side.
Brad, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
All right.
Jeff O'Dye.
Good, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. This consent agenda, I'll read the consent agenda and then we can just vote on that. Discussion and possible action on adopting resolution number 24-53, approving the annual review of the Tremont and City's moderate income housing plan and implementation, and ratifying the preparation of a report setting forth the fundings of said review in compliance with the Utah Code 10-9A-408.
What's defining a consent versus a normal agenda item?
I guess we didn't have to, if we had multiple items there, you could just make one motion and then.
Right, but where there's only one.
Yeah.
Well, the reason is that this is not an official requirement of anything. It's just it's more of a heads up than anything else. The moderate income housing report is really just a report. We're bringing it to you for your attention and for your
General information.
support. Yeah, general information. Thank you. And yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, 9A.
Motion by Lyle Vance,
Second it.
second by Wes?
Yep.
Okay. Brett?
All in favor, right?
It's a resolution, so Brett?
Brad, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Blair, aye.
Jeff O'Dye.
West side.
Okay, consent agenda passes. Let's see, calendar items. A review of the calendar, if you'll click on that. We've got the county fair. I have to mention that.
We were asked in connection with that to make sure that everyone is reminded that Wednesday for the parade, we'll be doing hot dogs and drinks out here. I believe right out here. So,
Yes.
What time to what time? I seen that, but
12 to 2.
12 to 2?
And then
Steering positions.
for the council, for information for you council members, I've spoken with Jared Frank, and he's willing to let us use a couple of side-by-sides, and we'll be in the parade, so that's always fun. And we'll have lots of candy to throw out. Anyway, so that'll be, we get together around 5 o'clock. Everybody lines up over here south of town on Tremont Street, and we'll go from there.
I thought the parade started at 5.
Well, we got to be there before that. Yeah, I think it does start at 5.
Yeah, don't show up at 5.
Don't show up at 5.
We'll pick you up halfway. Pick me up halfway.
There you go. That's a lot of fun.
I'm not walking. I quit. I walk enough.
Of course, you can go through the rest of the agenda. I don't know. League of Cities and Towns meetings, council, who's planning on going to that?
I've let Lindy know I am.
3 of us, 3 or 4 of us? Pardon me?
No Brett and no Jeff, correct?
Correct.
Are you planning to go?
No, family issue, so.
Okay. All right.
take good notes.
All righty, and you can kind of go through the rest of that. Let's see, is there any unfinished council business that we need to discuss? Okay. Reports and comments, city administration reports. Bill?
Couple things, and I don't know if I don't want to steal your thunder on any of these. We did meet with Garland. I don't know if you were going to mention that. If so, I'll let you mention
Go
that.
for it, yeah.
And then we met with UDOT earlier today, and I'll let you mention that as well.
Okay.
Expand on that. But I did have a question. Lindsay brought this up earlier. It was kind of the style for the previous city manager to give you guys a lot of resolutions, and it's something that I haven't ever seen anywhere else, ever. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
He liked to do that, I think, because he liked to be able to have record of it.
Stop them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that I want to divest the council from any of this information or from taking action on items, but the form of putting it in a resolution, I think, is just a little odd to me. And so if we did some of these items as just not a consent item, or maybe even move some of these to consent items, rather than have like a long resolution with all the whereases and other things. You guys can take action on things, and we can just have that action as so moved and take a vote.
Thank you.
Now, hang on a minute. You mean it doesn't need to be on the agenda?
No, it still needs to be on the agenda, and you can take action on it, but it's just,
We just don't.
Changes the form of approach of which the city council takes action on items. So like with the moderate income housing report, we could just get you to say like so moved or thumbs up or attaboy.
it would just be added to the
Actually
consent
having a
rather
voting
than,
process on something that has been submitted to the state.
That's
3
what
weeks
we've been
ago.
asking for 10 years.
I know.
So, like, I appreciate all of you voting in support of something that's done, but in which all too the state deadline is passed, but thank you.
we would need to do resolutions on are amending ordinances, amending budgets, and that would not include what the chief has proposed, by the way, with regard to how we purchase things. You wouldn't need to amend that because he's actually proposing just a shift within the budget itself. So you've already approved the budget. If he's not growing or requiring additional funds, just shifting things from one place to another within the budget, technically, all we need on that is an up or down vote. We don't need a resolution amending that. If he was asking for more money, then yeah, we would need to amend the budget and that kind of thing, which we would typically hold off until the end of the year anyway, so.
And that would create a resolution.
That would create a resolution. Most other places I've seen resolutions, we do like 6 or 7 a year. Here, we're doing, what are we on, like
6 or 7 a day?
53, 54, something. So just want to try to simplify the process if that's, unless anyone has any real heartburn about it.
I'm sensing no heartburn.
Okay, that's,
Maybe some relief to the heartburn.
okay, that's fair.
That all you have?
That's all I had.
You become my
DRC?
new best friend. Thank you.
DRC reports. Jeff, do you have anything to report on that?
Not really. We've got some subdivisions that are trying to get final approval here soon and hope to get construction started and before the season closes. So hopefully after this, I don't think it'll calm down, but it'd be nice if it would a little bit with the amount of documents. The only other thing I had to report on is I've been working with Curtis and a few of the departments head trying to put into language some of the short and long-term budgeting needs for each department. So if there's any information that the 5 of you would like to see presented or maybe how you'd like to have it presented, I'm always open to an email or a phone call or stop in the office. Mainly just for Wes, because he's there pretty often. The other 4 of you can just email or call.
You want to talk about the 10-plex?
Oh, yeah. Going through planning commission next week, we aren't sure how, but there was a mix-up in the architectural or desires for the 10-plex that's on 400 West by the new IFA. And we've been working with the developer and the new owner about either amending the development agreement or enforcing the elevations and the architectural finishes as was signed and recorded in the agreement. So we will be going through planning commission next week and then hopefully in front of you guys on the 20th. So
So
it's kind
an
of
amendment to the development agreement.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one because the confusion has been mainly because both the city administrative staff as well as the project's ownership has changed hands both ways, so there isn't much of a paper trail for it. There also isn't much of a, no one's here that was here through the whole process, and it's kind of made it a fun Alice in the rabbit hole type chase.
Jeff, is this the facade? Is this the facial?
Mhm.
You said elevation. Is there more problems with it?
Well, it's elevations is just kind of the architectural term for the finishes.
What it looks like.
Of
Yeah, it's
what it
just
looks
the
like.
appearance
So
of
the
it is what the
appearance,
concern is. Okay.
The coloring that they went with, the
Materials.
finishes as well, the materials. So, apologies.
Okay. Is that all you have, Jeff?
That's it from me.
Where is, on River's Edge, are they, what's River's Edge doing next, or what's their process in the DRC?
So we've approved phase 2, and that they'll be adopted by the DRC tomorrow morning. With the changes that they've had, though, Chris is waiting and DRC is waiting for them to submit their an updated preliminary plat to show what the phasing is and what their estimated build out looks like. And nothing will be approved until then. In the next phase, though, we're anticipating that the signal and that roadway entrance will be constructed.
In phase 2?
Phase 3.
Oh, phase 3, okay.
Phase 2 will just be, I think it's 25 to 30 more homes. That all kind of, I think it dual connects through to one of or they connect to one of the roadways in River's Edge Phase 1.
Yeah, just make sure that we've got 2 connections, no matter what, okay?
Paul and Chris have been very
Okay.
clear about that and making
Okay.
sure that that is meeting the 30 count.
Okay.
Can you also report on where they're at as far as secondary water and the over there by the canal?
I don't think anything over by the canal started, but I believe honestly, that's why we're waiting for their preliminary thing so we can understand, because the changes that they've made with mixing the multifamily as well as making some of the phases smaller has changed how the original development agreement is kind of operating. And so that is an amendment that we will be working with them to understand, from where those existing targets were to how it's kind of shaping out today. And the city's been open and with working on them because it's just how many they feel they can afford to build with the market right now.
So the
We gotta
plan
get
hasn't
it.
changed.
The plan hasn't changed, just how much they feel they can
Do it at
build
time.
in a phase.
The
and stuff.
phasing plan itself has changed, not the layout or
Way it'll
anything.
be,
like-
but-
Yeah,
No,
How many they do at a time.
right. So instead of doing 30 in phase 3, they're gonna do 20 in phase 3, and then maybe do a 3A to pick up those
So will
others.
there be a light on the?
there
on
will
the
still be
state?
a light, but the targets that the original development, just with them breaking it into more smaller chunks that make up the whole puzzle, it's changed when those targets from the initial development agreement were gonna be hit. But with phase 3, they've now got to the point that they need to build the intersection out. But we're waiting for them to show the new phasing plan before we start approving phase 3. But my guess is by next year they'll start on that, if not sooner.
Thank you.
But aren't we committed to our equalization basin over there with?
Only when
with
we
the-
start using secondary water.
Oh,
Yeah. So those are all things that as the developers show where their counts are, I'll go through and modify or make an amendment to the development agreement that shows, okay, at this point, say we're at 100 units was when the secondary water needed to be put in. And we'll see when they hit that in the phasing with their new approach to the development.
So this new development, they're putting in piping for secondary water, correct?
Yes, they're putting in dry pipe.
Everything has to have that.
Or, well, that's the phrase for it is dry pipe is
Dry
pipe
pipe.
that's installed and ready to be used, but
Okay.
doesn't have any water source, yet, so. But it's there and ready to go, which saves up tearing up roads.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Council, do you have any questions for Jeff? All right, council reports. Let's see. I'm sorry, department head reports. Chief, do you have anything for us?
I got a couple things you want to look at.
No, the other chief.
All right, so I'm just going to give you guys our stats for July. We had 992 total incidents, 27 animal problems, 11 code enforcement, 4 suicidal threats, 64 agency assists, 4 family fights, 4 sex offenses, and we had 1 search warrant with a nexus to Tremont, which actually rendered some pretty good intel on some other problems we have out here. Additionally, we do have our payments coming from our grant. We were given a check for $14,749, another check for $23,556, and another one for $10,633. So we're starting to actually get that money now, which is awesome. Other thing to note, I'm obtaining a certificate in crime analytics. That's being sponsored by the Department of Justice. It's a ton of work, but it'll be worth it. I actually brought you a sample of what we can start doing after I'm all educated on it. And we could do it. It comes with a program that I'll have access to for about a year. If you want to pass that, Bill. So this is just an example. That's our domestic violence is in Tremont for the last year. And basically the idea of this is so you can address and figure out crime trends. It will allow me to analyze the trends, create crime maps like you're looking at a heat map right now. And the other thing, once you get really good, is you can actually forecast the possibility of future crimes. So it's pretty cool. Our Know Your Force reviews from our citizens, we had 60 total reviews, 98.3 of which were positive. And the one thing I did want to bring to your attention, we did have an issue with Garland not meeting their MOU. They were sent a letter of breach at the first of the month. They have till actually 8/1/24 to comply. It's basically with staffing for the shelter. We're setting up a meeting to meet with them, try to sort that out. We just have to hold them to the standard of the current MOU we have. It's been slipping back a little bit, and this is kind of, they forced my hand. I'm going to try to be kind. I'm going to try to find a nice way for us to solve that issue together. And the last thing, I guess I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. As far as the traffic enforcement thing, I know a lot of people are passionate about it. It would be unethical for me to tell my officers not to enforce any law. So I'm probably not going to do that, even if it upsets some people. And there's also like a catch-22. And I talked to Bill about this when this issue started to arise. You know, if we do not enforce these laws and they do have a hard closure sign and someone's vehicle gets damaged, then that's going to come back on the city. And then I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if the construction company is going to be liable or if we're going to face liability. Part of my goal is to protect the city from that. And by us having the signage and enforcing those laws, I think it adds that layer of protection, and we can run that by Dustin as well. Now, if there are mistakes, like I said, I will talk to Dustin and the judge and make sure they toss those out. If there's people and they can even show their address, fine. But I'll talk to my officers as well and try to get them on the same page as far as what we're enforcing and what we're not. We can definitely do better. Go ahead.
It just seems confusing to me that the construction company are in charge of the signs. They put a sign up, some employee puts a sign up, and then we're running around ragged trying to appease these signs that we're not even in charge of.
Yeah.
Something's wrong here.
Yeah, and
Why do we have to enforce a sign put up by the construction company?
It's state law. There's construction zones, and once they establish that's a zone, we're supposed to enforce that depending on the jurisdiction. It's our jurisdiction, we have to enforce that.
What's our timeline on that getting done?
Not soon enough, in my opinion. I'd love to see it done sooner than later. But I will talk to the troops and we'll try to back that up. Because the last thing we want to do is upset people. We just have to. Unfortunately, we're the arm of the government, and if they tell us this is a law, we have to enforce it, even if we don't necessarily agree with it.
So how do we communicate with the construction company? Is that a Paul?
Yes.
Well, we've been, yeah, it is, and we've been over there, Bill and I have been over there, and I think
You better put some guys out.
we just need to,
It gets a little bit expensive, having people stand out there all day. I mean, expenses, an expense, and it should be worked into their contract. There are several things that, I mean, and I came to this late, so I don't want to poor mouth people or throw them under the bus or whatever, but other projects I've seen in other jurisdictions, I mean, you're talking door hangers and maps and things handed out to people with timelines so that people know exactly what's going on and what to expect and when. I don't know how the ball got dropped on this, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions or throw anyone under the bus, but going forward, we're definitely going to learn some lessons and apply lessons I've learned other places to these kinds of projects, and we're not going to have this kind of problem ever again.
I think they're gonna have to just use some of their profits and put some guys out.
That's it may come to that. I'm hoping that we can get, when the mayor and I were up talking to the folks up there, they're saying that they can open the east end pretty quickly. They've got that done. So from, I forget which road it is.
2300.
On the east side where they're gonna open it up to the bottom of the hill. And that'll allow people to get from wherever they need to be down through on pavement and out and just have the road closure further to the west. They were waiting for curb gutter and sidewalk crews to come in and get that all done before they can do the pavement. But the compaction was already done and the roadway was largely done when we were up there, right, Mayor? Is that?
They were pouring curb and gutter.
yeah, they've got it almost to grade, the eastern part of the, down the slope.
So they wanted to open
Most
that
of
back
is
up
to grade.
sooner rather than later.
To go west.
To go east.
To go east.
Yeah.
That's where they'll finish, coming from the east, going west and up the hill. That's the direction of, the completion direction.
Right.
Aren't they trying to get done before school starts?
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the target.
So there's a lot of issues, but if this east end is getting done, does that help resolve the doctor's situation so he can respond quickly?
Potentially. I don't want to speak.
Get outside that lower exit, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to speak exactly the doctor's problems, but
That would solve everything. If they have a guaranteed one-way out, that's a one-way out and a one-way in, and
Want a way out, that's all.
I think
Right.
you can jog too, if you had
Right.
to. You
Yeah.
can just jog down.
get a bike or something.
Well, then
The sidewalk's
sidewalks out.
I have all the sidewalks.
Has a scooter. Tried everything.
I'll give you a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the last thing is I just want to thank the council for coming out, showing support for the guys in that award. I thought it was pretty great, and yeah, I appreciate you guys.
That was cool.
Appreciate you.
Couple things from me. First, really appreciate the support on appointing Nate Christensen in that role. I'm really excited to be able to maybe get some momentum behind our emergency management program. And I'll work with him on budget and finance and the things that are going to be required to support him in that role. Next thing I wanted to bring up was just a shout out because I came straight from here, from a fire to here. Shout out to the crews today, did a remarkable job on a couple acre fire alongside the freeway between Ellison Trucking and the freeway. Started from cutting steel down there in the trucking yard, and they did a remarkable job working with Garland. And then the last thing I want to bring up is I should be on the agenda for next week. You should look to see me to be on the next council agenda, just to prepare you with a proposal. I thought it would be a resolution. I'll work with Bill on what it is. To begin the process of outsourcing our ambulance billing. Shari's indicated a retirement date sometime out, and we need some time to make that transition. I'm very optimistic. I've been on the phone with multiple companies who do ambulance billing, as a specialty. And I'll have a RFP, request for proposals, to present to the council at our next agenda. Just putting the last touch-ups on that RFP. And I've reached out to some billing companies, because I don't write RFPs for billing companies, right? So to say, look, does this make sense? And they've indicated, yeah, this works. We'll answer these RFPs. I suspect we'll have no less than 5 ambulance billing companies enthusiastically interested in taking over ambulance billing. And based on other fire departments that I've talked to that have transitioned from in-house to outsourced, specialized billing, it generally is a win for us financially in the end. So I'm very optimistic. So you'll be able to see that coming.
Brady, are they really good at collecting?
Well, when I met with Curtis to get advice on the RFP, he added additional language on the collections portion,
Good.
right?
Good.
So Curtis that was his focus. He said, let's put some more language in there that asks them to propose to us what their collection system is. So as we look at different companies in their proposal, we'll be able to say, and one of our priorities will be which of those companies has the best system for collections.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that was good advice from Curtis. He steered me that way. Okay, thank you.
No, I think, am I missing anybody? Council reports. Jeff?
An item I'm hopeful to see, because people are bringing it to my attention more frequently now, is dealing with the senior center, where my wife and I eat occasionally. And it's the communities that are not contributing. And I know Sean used to report to the city about, the dollar amount, and one number that stuck in my head was $80,000 it was costing Tremont and to support the other communities. And I'd just like an update on where we're at.
We've been working with, we need an update on that, and that's something we can do. Mark was really good to keep track of what was going on, but
Jenny, I'll
we do
on
have,
that too.
we do have several communities who are resistant to paying for their, what the situation we have is we've got communities who receive Meals on Wheels or whatever. They come in and they participate in the center and everything. And what we don't have is some of these communities are just refusing to pay. And they always say, well, we just don't have any money, sorry, too bad, so sad. And that kind of thing, we just need to keep working with them and reminding them that they, our citizens are subsidizing their citizens for their senior citizens.
Some of the people at the senior center have contacted me, have been shocked when they see Jenny's map up there with the cars of who's contributing, who's not. And to find out that their communities are not contributing, they were distressed about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
They need to know. I'm glad that they're communicating that.
We have probably 4 or 5 communities that are pretty resistant.
The hard thing is that it's a little like in the ambulance. I mean, how do you cut someone off if we're their source of meals? How do you just say, sorry, your city's decided not to pay your way, and we're...
If you cut them off 1 year, they'd start paying. Sold on it.
They
Been on this bandwagon. And
I'd like to talk some more, maybe not here.
Well, we can talk more.
about that.
Did you have anything else, Jeff?
No, sir.
Blair?
I'm just still, following up with the RFQ.
Yep, we're on it.
I mean, and then the RFP for Paul's position.
That's that's a hiring process.
Have we sent
So
out
where are
an
we at with that?
application?
Paul's still working on the job description, and then we can put out an ad and start accepting applications.
I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Brett?
I'm good this week.
Oh, well, I'm going to, as Bill alluded to, we had a meeting with UDOT today. We did a tour of Main Street and talked about.
Had an ice cream. Don't skip that part.
Yeah, the best part was the ice cream cone. Yeah. We had a tour of Main Street and discussed several of the different options that, ways that Tremont City can cooperate and work with UDOT to enhance or improve the downtown area, the Main Street part. There, UDOT's, Main Street is a UDOT road, for those of you that don't know. And so we have to go by their guidelines and everything. There are several suggestions that were made, had to do with different ways we could maybe slow traffic down, but not too much, and how we can enhance the downtown area. While we're on Main Street, I'm going to share some information that Councilmember Vance went around, and he did a survey of all of the merchants and the property owners on Main Street. The question was, and maybe I can back up just a little bit, as we had these town hall meetings and steering committee meetings, the question was, well, what can we do to sort of start the process of enhancing the downtown area? And so Councilmember Vance took it upon himself to go and interview these landowners and merchants. And the question was, what should we do with the trees? Should we keep the trees, or should we take the trees down? Well, we felt like the merchants were really the ones that probably ought to have a pretty good say on this. I know everybody probably in town has an opinion about the trees on Main Street, but the ones that are directly affected are the people that are doing business on Main Street. So if it's okay, I can give those results.
Sure.
Okay, so Lyle contacted 26 merchants and landowners. The vote was, of those 26 people, 4 votes for leaving the trees, and 22 votes were take down the trees, and many of those were maybe coming back with a smaller tree, something a little more fitting to the fitting. And so in our steering committee meeting, Lyle presented that information, and we talked about it, and the feeling was, and it was unanimous, that the trees are to come down. That doesn't mean that we're going to not come back with something, but take it a step at a time. We got to take sort of baby steps here. But the idea would be to start the process of enhancing the downtown area. So I just wanted to report on that, and so that we talked about communication, and it's important that we communicate. I felt like we needed to say something about that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is here we've been working with our water over the last several years. Since I've had anything to do with the mayor's position, water became a very important part of what we were doing. We've actually received, over the course of the last several years, since I've had anything to do with this, $4.7 million in grants, of which $4 million of that has to do with water, with secondary water, with different things that we're trying to do with the equalization basins for the secondary water project. For secondary water, all of this on this south end of town was all paid for with a grant. The ASR that we have out on the Deweyville Mountain will enhance our culinary water. That is all paid for through grants. So $4.7 million with an M, that we've received in different grants. I just got word today that we received another $1 million. So that's the part of that 4.7. We got a letter today from the Department of Natural Resources that we received another grant for $1 million. This will be funding that will be used. I don't know if many of you remember or not, but back in it's 2 or 3 years ago, we had a water main break out in Deweyville, and it really put a lot of stress on the system, that water main break, and they had to go around, and fortunately, none of us went without having a shower or flushing our toilet that day, but it was very stressful for our Public Works Department. This $1 million will be used to enhance that about a mile worth of line out in Deweyville that will be our main line for the culinary water. It'll be an 18-inch line that'll go in there. That'll be paid for with grant funding. So we have a lot going on. There's a lot of good things going on. And so I don't know. Did I catch it all? I think I did.
Do you want to talk about our meeting with Garland at all? Or?
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing that we have going on. So Garland and Tremont are working together we're both dealing with growth. Garland is and Tremont, and we're working with Garland right now to come together on a regional sort of plan for the growth in our area. We're siblings. The two communities are kind of like siblings. Sometimes we have disagreements and arguments and things like that, but we're still siblings and we still love each other. And so we're going to move forward with that growth plan for our communities. And with that, yeah.
The key part of the conversations with Garland is that we're able to utilize Bragg and their resources. With Garland's
Right.
size still being under 5,000, they rely a lot on the Bear River Association of Governments, and so that's going to be, along with the camaraderie we hope to gain with Garland City, being able to utilize Bragg and their economic development is kind of the ideal for what they can bring to both Garland and Tremont through grant writing and funding sources.
So that's sort of my report. Council, we have, I'd like to, I know it's late, but I'd like to ask you if we can go into closed session. We got some information I wanted to share with the council, but it needs to be done in closed session.
I'll make a motion, we go to closed session.
Second. Motion made by Wes and seconded by Jeff. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for showing and your concerns and everything.